We're back here at Deadlock Fight Night number 20, presented by Intel. That's right, it has been 20 fight nights so far, with no intention of stopping, by the way. Someone's been setting up a ridiculous rib, being like, oh, there's a bonus prize pool at the end. It's like, no, we're keeping this going for a long time. ZP here with Dan, and Dan, we got no intention of stopping.
No, definitely not. I think it's not something that it would make sense to stop ZP. It's far too popular. No. I hear this is the most popular show on the internet, actually.
Yeah, well, it's popular enough, at least in Deadlock, that apparently if you queue up on the ladder right now, it's absolutely miserable. Like, as most of the people, especially at the higher ranks, they're here watching us. So yeah, no, it's a place to be. And because it's a place to be, that means we got to invite another person here to our lovely desk. That's right, Jason rejoined the show once more. And Jason, $2,000 on the line, VP looking to reclaim the throne. It's looking to be a spicy day of EU Deadlock.
I think if either team that wins takes home the $2,000, it's a good way to end Deadlock Fight Night since it's our last show here, and you just
don't play back. Into the beat.
So it's a good end to the show. It's been a good 20 weeks, but we had to end it finally, and it looks like tonight's the night.
Dan, or Jason, I'm going out of my way to just stop the misinformation, and you are adding the misinformation on stream. Don't listen to Jason.
I remember our first fight night. We had to do invitations and we had to do best of fives to really determine. Back when Hydronation, before their 30 roster swaps they had, just crazy to think after 20 shows we're calling it quits.
It would have been more powerful, more effective if Jason had gone to start the show this way. Jason, maybe you should have saved it for the NA broadcast where I think you're hosting, or maybe you're hosting. Then you can get in first with the misinformation.
I don't know. I might not be here for the NA portion of the broadcast now if I keep going this route.
No. Actually, he is like 2 more trolls away from just being done. But look, we're gonna get off that. We're gonna get the rosters here side by side coming on up. It is gonna be VP taking on OneWin. And look, storylines within EU. Honestly, overall, OneWin has shown to be a team that has been able to fight VP on an even level at times. But VP roster, we just saw.
I mean, I'm going to be the realist here. I'm not even going to be the optimist. I feel like, as we saw when Virtus.pro came back with a vengeance 2 weeks ago, they proved that the shtick that one would use to win games wasn't going to work against them. And as we just saw, a nice little warm-up up against Paravision. I mean, Obi Kim and Dimov working wonders in that mid lane with the Holiday and the Mo and Krill combo. And we didn't really get to see too much impact from anyone else because it was pretty much just about those two we were pretty much paying attention to. And for OneWin, the question has been, what's the next step to their gameplay? And I think one simple ban shuts them out. Pocket. In that best of 5 last week, it was doing work for Empty Dreams, winning every single match when Pocket was picked, but Empty Dreams able to win 3 straight to take the series back into their own hands for the reverse sweep here, Dan.
Yeah, I really hope that we get at least one Pocket pick for the final DFN broadcast. Otherwise, it's just not going to feel the same when it all comes to a close.
It's a good way to end if we get a Pocket, to shut down DFN for good here. Thanks, Dan, for really
Jason, in all seriousness, Jason, I'm gonna be blunt with you. Seriously, stop. I literally had to spend a lot of time telling people this.
I was just going with Dan.
Okay,
Dan, you and I need to stop.
I don't know why I chose to just enable Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, moving along.
I think for OneWin, there's a couple of picks / bans that really do hurt them. Yamato, obviously, we talk about when it came to ABL. That's the real big thing that came out of nowhere for them. Pocket as well as one of those picks I expect to see taken away. It's kind of like, why would you not take away one of their strongest heroes they've been playing with? But again, they did heavily rely on fighting in the jungle constantly to win matches up against Paravision, and we saw Paravision deal with that quite well when it came to the first 2 maps, but then it started to slip as the picks got away from them.
Yeah, what's super interesting here is that this draft, I kind of expect that OneWin are going to give up a lot of the frontliners. And VP, I'm curious. Well, I'm curious if that's going to be the trend, because that's how OneWin tend to play. They want to get that Holiday online. If in a perfect world, they get Yamato, they get Pocket, they get Calico, they get all of these playmaking heroes that they can just play hyper aggressive with. And that's generally been the way they like to play the game. And they'll give up frontliners, they'll give up supports. And that plays into VP kind of nicely, because VP are pretty happy to get a Mo. They're pretty happy to get Abrams online. So the way that OneWin have been playing, I think is kind of exploitable in the draft for VP. So I guess we'll have to see if OneWin are sticking to their guns, or if they actually have tried to incorporate more of what's worked from VP's comps.
Well, you know, the cool thing about EU and being at 20 shows right now is that we got a big history of our teams at the moment. And, you know, let's take a quick look. EU definitely has been a little bit more storied than NA in terms of back and forth, especially you look back to the first 10 weeks of Deadlock Fight Night in EU. But look, you know, over the last 10 or so, it's been pretty VP dominated, Jason.
Yeah, and I honestly won't be surprised to see it continue that way. I think Virtus.pro have proven to be the best team in EU, and you might be able to beat them once, but you can't do it twice, as we did see with the 1-win Bombshell Volume 4, where they did beat 1-win in a best of 5, but went the full series. And the only reason that 1-win had the chance to take the title last week is because VP unfortunately could not field all their players due to obligations with their organization. So for VP, you know, maybe that week off, maybe it hurt them. Looking at that last match, I would say quite the opposite, though. They still looked as dominant as ever. But the ball is in the court of 1-win in my eyes, and I would like to hear your guys' thoughts as well if you agree. Like, I still think VP is the stronger team right now and should be the stronger team. And it's about 1-win adapting for where they had falters before.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's that the issue is that VP is so fundamentally good, and they're really good at playing a well-rounded comp that can go and be super powerful into the late game. And even if they had a worse early game, which I think VP's worked on a lot, I think their early game looks better, then they were able to deflect the kind of aggression that is a key part of the whole comp and draft choices that 1-win like to play. And we just saw a match where VP basically applied the same strategy with a more rounded comp, where they get that first early game win and then you never get to breathe. And that's how 1-win played it before. But I feel like the edge that VP has is that VP gets better early game comps.
Yeah, I mean, VP more than anything else, I feel like on top of being a great team when it comes to meta stuff, is also just pretty good about adapting things. As we saw in the last thing where they go, hey, we're going to decide we're going to go with the early holiday pick. Now, the interesting part here is that they had choice of first ban or first pick, and they decided they want to defer in this case. They're not going to go for the first ban, first pick, which worked out for them to be a 1. They instead say, 1-win, you get the call.
You know what? I want to challenge you on that about the following the meta for Virtus.pro. Not saying that they don't follow the meta, but I think in my eyes, and I could be completely wrong, I'm not going to deny that, Virtus.pro just plays something until they're proven they can be beaten. Like, we've seen Michaelis how many times in a row on Vindicta now? I feel like it's been almost every single match we've seen for weeks on Vindicta. And in my opinion, Vindicta is not necessarily a meta pick, at least at the moment.
It's your life.
Well, I think Vindicta has been, overall, it's still been pretty high valued in EU and NA. I think when it comes to VP, I think the biggest hit on them meta-wise would probably be if you go back to the idea where they were like trying to force 7 repeatedly. That was like their one blind spot, but I do feel like they've learned off that. And then like even in the last draft, right? Even as much as they've liked Vindicta, they said, no, we gotta go for the holiday first.
Can I continue to go on that point? Because I think, I get what you mean about the 7. I think the way they built 7 was the problem, going for the ball build instead of the power surge build. And then obviously with the ultimate change for 7. But I get what you mean, because it was more about having those carries who can come online earlier. But the funny thing was, like, the 7 still ended up being an S tier pick with the 3-lane setup now, funny enough.
One interesting thing is the Great Talon ban here, I got to say, because I feel like Great Talon isn't your typical first ban. So I'm trying to sort of figure out why they pick that. We get the Bebop first ban from VP as well. And it, like, looking back at how that game went, yeah, Bebop could have been a really good counter to the Mo dominance in that mid lane. So are they clearing space so that the Mo is more effective? And are they going to take it in these first like 3 picks before the second wave of bans?
Yeah, I think the adaptation here I'd like to see is, as much as I like Vindicta, as much as I think Vindicta will be the pick here, going the Mo here and securing the good middle lane that we saw before would be better, but they like Vindicta first. And to me, Jason, I look at this, I think about just how the last game played out. I actually think it's a little bit of a mistake, because if you're 1-win, I think you definitely take Mo in one of these next 2 picks.
Well, I'm thinking 7 Pocket Mo are all available. I don't think you pick Yamato early. Calico's still open as well. I think there's a lot of picks. I think maybe VP is just kind of setting up for that flexibility, where if like we do see a Mo come in, they can swap things up and change like what their initial game plan was going to be. But with the Calico, I mean, I think like 1-win are kind of, it's almost predictable what they're going to be picking here. And we're not really seeing, I don't want to be too harsh on them, but we're not seeing like a ton of depth in terms of their picks. But at the same time, I'm like, Mirage is a pretty good pick. Like Calico's a pretty damn decent pick as well. So I'm also kind of like conflicted in that statement.
I hope we get Pocket here, because I think it's getting banned if they don't pick it up.
No more hiding.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, that makes sense. But now the thing is, you obviously like they can't steal away the Mo. And
now you mow it,
I think
right?
the pressure's on VP to pick Mo now, so they get that Mo holiday. I think you're totally right, CP. Otherwise, it should in theory get banned. I feel like that's what the ban has to happen.
The double interesting thing to me is like, okay, they probably pick Mo here. Does one win copy what we saw Paravision do and ban the Abrams? Because I think it's probably going to come out for Listic in turn. Oh, okay, they go for Abrams over the Mo. That is super interesting. Maybe they think the Mo won't get banned and they want to protect against the Abrams ban, but I don't know. But when you think about the early lane situation, Jason, I think I would have preferred the Mo in this spot.
I kind of like the Mo. I kind of like the snowball potential, but it's like, I'm going to steal one of the things you always say. It's like, give LeBron the ball. I mean, it's Listic, right? You're going to give him an Abrams whenever you normally can. I think one interesting thing is that besides the Virtus.pro settling on the bans they've consistently done against one win week in and week out for the last like two times they played. Yeah, 2 times they played. Sinclair's being left open this week. And I think we've seen a major drop off in Sinclair this last 2 weeks because he hasn't really been that amazing. He hasn't been that magnificent, I'd even say.
Dude, he was poisoning the draft. Like, no one wants to play him. No one can play him. No, everyone feels like they had to ban him off first. He just poisoned the draft completely. So I'm glad it's just gone.
Well, the 7 getting taken out here. I mean, that makes sense too when you think about like who VP wants to play here. It probably means that Zergy is probably going to get stuck onto Infernus, but the Mo is still available here. So they could grab the Mo and they could decide to follow up after with the Infernus, which, I mean, also on the same note, Infernus could get picked by one win in the spot if they wanted to. So I do wonder how highly VP chooses carries in the spot, but okay.
That's so weird.
Mo it is.
Like, I would think, I got to look at the picks for one win, but like, I would think realistically, Abrams doesn't get picked by one win. Let me quickly check my little database thing I got. Okay, he's been picked 3 times, but I don't think he's as valuable as like a Mo and Krill could be. I mean, Mo and Krill's been picked 3 times as well for them, but they haven't had such great success.
I think a Viscous could be something that one win might be interested in targeting. I'm not sure if they go for it, but like, I'm a bit scared of the Abrams late game, like we were talking about, and some of the lockdown from Holiday and Mo and Krill, and like the cube does help to deal with that. I think Paravision were thinking along those lines, and it's up. I mean, are you going to get an Ivy here for one win? I mean, they can obviously play it, but I feel like I would prefer us to see a Viscous come into play for them instead.
Can I propose a topic to discuss really quickly and go a little bit podcast ZP?
My greatest trick.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Hydronation these last couple of weeks. They don't play support anymore. Like, there's no dedicated support player. And you look at EU, and we typically have like that one player who's still kind of playing support-esque. I mean, Obi Kim's on Mo and Krill, so not necessarily as support as you would expect, but like to see Ivy's being picked, Kelvin's being picked. I feel like maybe Hydranation's actually kind of setting a meta, or maybe that's just because of the way NA plays. But I'm kind of interested in this idea of no necessary support player anymore.
I think part of it may just come down from the idea of lane pressure, and that like, because losing a lane early is so incredibly impactful, like the idea may just be along the lines of just going with characters that are more powerful in early lane, because a lot of the impact of your supports tend to come in a little bit later into the game, right? Like, I mean, Kelvin can be pretty decent in lane depending, but even still, I think it's just the nature of the early game has kind of made it to where you lose out more from running the supports in lanes and what you feel like you're gaining from them perhaps in the later game. That's my main explanation for why I think like Kelvin and Ivy have been like a little bit lowered in priority as time has gone on, where you're right. I mean, NA was doing it even before EU.
We haven't seen Wraith in EU since DFN number 16. I play with me.
Full month.
4 DFNs to see it. That's, I mean, in EU only. That's insane actually. But
we got it last week in NA one, like in the last pick as well, I think it was. So it's kind of maybe making its way back, but Yamato, Calico, Pocket, Yamato. That's what I was talking about earlier, that they love to do this. So this is going to be interesting. Obviously, they forego any front line, and they have all damage playmakers. I mean, against the Abrams and the Mokro in the early game, I do feel like one win have some nice just pure damage to like deal with that, which is kind of nice.
I think right now this is really a test of like how much do you love your like Holiday and Moan Krill in the early game, because in terms of raw power, I feel like one win has like way more raw power here, especially consider the overall impact of the Mirage into a game like this and what we've seen Pockets do in recent times. Like, I actually think of the 2 drafts, if you don't have just a middle lane domination into kind of a game that we saw in the best of 1, I kind of feel like one win wins this, especially if they stay even into the late game, Jason.
I'm so torn because I kind of started off talking about win is they need to adapt, and I'm just seeing the same picks time and time again for this team. But at the same time, it's very snowballing. Like we saw Empty Dreams on Pocket last week, just like how slippery he was. Obviously now he has to deal with the Mo and Krill and a Phantom Strike in Abrams. If ABL is actually going to be in the Yamato, we're not sure if he's going to be on Yamato or Calico just yet. But for me, the kind of odd one is maybe Sinclair. However, with a Mo and Krill, it's not that bad. With a Lasso, it's not that bad. You do have a couple of decent options to actually open up some things for your team. But I'm still, for some reason, still not totally sold on one win. But I want to give them the opportunity to change my mind here in this series.
One thing I got to say that's super interesting about the laning and the Sinclair here is that we do know Sinclair is actually a very strong early laner and great at the tower pressure. And then also going into the mid to late game, the Hex is going to be absolutely crucial in helping to deal with those lockdowns and like the lassos and like helping to just be the only answer to basically all of those things. So there's a lot of pressure, I feel like, on the Sinclair player to actually have effect with that.
Yeah, I mean, Sinclair, it's kind of another test for where do we view Sinclair right now? Because Sinclair kind of went from must first pick, first ban into, things like the previous series where no one cared about the Sinclair one way or another, right? So, the overall valuation of Sinclair's power level has been all over the place. But, the thing for me, Dan, looking at the lane matchups, I'm just curious to see what will be done to stem the bleeding in middle against the Holiday Mo lane, which was just so devastating before. But Jason, you have any final thoughts before we send you off on your way here?
I'm kind of curious why Zanya, like the Yamato, the Battlecruiser Yamato we talked about in middle, is not being put there because of the harass that you can do from the high ground. Like what's Mo gonna do to you about that? What's really Holiday gonna do to you? So I'm curious and really interested in how that's gonna work in that right hand side lane.
Oof, alrighty though, Dimov. Quick kill onto ABL, the middle lane not starting off smoothly at all for one win. So, I mean, one quick kill, oftentimes, Dan, you could quickly come back and, ooh, speaking of that, in the left, things getting a little bit spicy to kick things off.
Yeah, I think a death at this stage, not really super consequential. As long as you're not giving up tower damage, as long as you're not really missing much in the wave, it's really, really minimal in terms of impact. But yeah, so far I'm liking the pressure that we're seeing from one win. They really need to have a solid early game. At worst, come away even with VP, which will be hard to do, but they do have this very aggressive lineup to do so with. I feel like Lockets will be kind of nice with all of the low cooldowns that one win. Lockets for Virtus.pro, which I should say. Because obviously if you're against like a Calico, for example, a Lock is usually a must pick up because the refresh rate of those abilities is so quick, you get charges real fast.
Yeah, well, take a look here at the left right now, which has been a little bit more back and forth. Right now you see VP pushing forward. Interesting enough, one win's been able to stabilize a little bit in the middle where things are at the moment. So that early kill not completely derailing the middle lane.
We didn't talk about if there are any nice ults for the Sinclair to steal. Anything that we should look out for. There's nothing like that's like super obvious other than like the lasso and the combo kill, I suppose, potentially. Like there's no like epic steals, I think. Like, at Last Stand, for example, when there's a Warden on the other team.
Hold the phone here for a second. Off the middle lane right now. Mo getting very, very low. Obikim just barely able to get away. Parry, though, on the overseas. Overseas, low. Now looking onto the Mo. Mo able to get a little bit of health restored, but the fact that Obikim did not die there, Dan, is actually ridiculous.
That seems a little weird, to be honest. It's like no one, and there was a shot that could have connected into the ground, but it's a slight whiff. I think that would have also got their finishing shot. Crazy that Obi Kim survived that, but hey, it's good news at least for one win. Even if they don't get the kill, the very fact that they're able to kind of put the Mo in so much trouble this early, and Dimov as well, that's a great sign here if you're a one-win fan.
Yeah, I mean, one win's been playing this evenly so far, and I mean, so much of Deadlock right now is based on just having a good presence in the early game, not having things, go too far against you. And in fact, you look at the mid lane pressure right now, it's more on the one-win side that's able to get pressure onto the Guardian to begin with, not getting bullied by this Mo Holiday lane. So already kind of a different dynamic than what we saw just one map ago.
Oh, and Mo coming in, back in, gets chunked a little bit there as well. And Demos already low on that Holiday. So OneWin really focused on keeping the pressure up. In the meantime, Empty Dreams does die. Is going to be speeding in off the rope there. And the Abrams is pretty pushed, as is Vindicta up on these stairs. So it might be an opportunity to maybe get some damage off the rope. Xenon is a little bit weak though, so I guess they can't be too aggressive here. This is some tower damage that gets converted. Again, those shotguns ignoring some of the resists there on the Guardians. Oh, we get an Affliction coming in there from Pocket. From Empty Dreams. Seismic Slam as well.
Slam up over, yeah, get a little bit of a stun and try and get away. Not quite the classic Abrams escape slam, but yeah, still able to get away.
Yeah, I was unsure at that point. Is he trying to be aggressive or is he trying to get away? I don't know. He doesn't really have a choice. Ooh, look at the tower damage there. That's actually huge tower damage coming in from OneWin.
Yeah, OneWin has been playing the tower damage pretty well. I mean, I don't know the exact update on right now, but I feel like OneWin has done more overall, especially between like middle and the right-hand side. So, I mean, with so much being dependent on the early game, just look at how low Overseas was getting there. Really fine. Meanwhile, back over here on the right, taking a look at Zergy. It is interesting to see the Wraith back into play here. It's been a hot minute, as Jason had brought up, Dan.
I think one of the dangers about the Wraith is that the pacing on the Wraith might not be able to keep up, and potentially, if your team is not able to come out ahead here, I do worry about the Wraith being able to kind of get powerful enough, get those power spikes at the right time. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But yeah, we're going to see right now just one win that's definitely taking some edges on those on the tower damage. They're definitely getting that lane pressure working in their favor for the most part. So far, at least, they're doing better than Paravision was at this stage of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you look back to the Paravision game, the middle lane had already just been lost beyond compare. Meanwhile, you look at where OneWin is. I mean, all the pressure is on the VP instead. Swap coming in, Demoff immediately taken down. AB that L there on the finish. Mo, counter combo. But even this trade out is not bad at all for OneWin, because guess what? ABL is staying at the tower, and it's Obikim that has to give him plenty of space.
Oh, we went away from that fight. I don't know what happened, but it's looks like Zergy goes down. Flammable does get traded out. And we've got some fisticuffs here. Zanya is going to be getting onto the Wraith here. Wraith, oh wow, that's going to be a TP up. I don't know if that'll be enough there to escape a Calico or rather a Yamato. And indeed, Zanya will take down Sharik. So VP on the worst end of things here at the beginning. Still, we're yet to see a Guardian get taken down, but it's only a matter of time at this point. That mid Guardian is so low, as is the right side.
Charging coming in and Holistic may not have wanted to be that deep. Still somehow alive here for a moment. Michaela able to punish Xenon, and Holistic somehow, some way surviving some of the burst damage coming on in. Mikhail able to provide good fire in over the top, and you know, VP just threading the needle there, Dan.
And it is interesting to see that right now, you know, OneWin are definitely doing enough to keep up, and they're a little bit ahead overall, despite the score being edged towards VP in terms of stalls. It's that Guardian damage that really matters right now, and there's a lot of fighting coming into that mid lane. Right now, we've got Mirage actually ramming across. I would imagine they're going to go back to that left side lane, because that's going to be a problem soon. But on screen, obviously, on this right side lane, we got that attempt at just that defense of this very weak Guardian on the right side. We're back into the mid lane. We see the dive coming on through. The Guardian going down in the mid lane. And this could be the opening for OneWin.
Yeah, OneWin is in a really great spot here. Shriek going for the parry. Zumalo diving on in, still looking for the finish. Gonna have a parry up here in one more second. Still might get parried. Goes for it instead. Just goes for the slash. Shadow transformation in. And you look at this Yamato not stopping. However, the reinforcements come back in. So Zanya is forced out. But still, really nice opening here for OneWin. 2 Guardians down, only 1 Guardian down for VP in turn, and the middle widely opened up, but Overseas might be dying here. It goes for the over-the-top parry attempt. Not gonna save you there when Dimov runs in at full HP.
Yeah, and this is the moment where the potential pressure for OneWin that they can apply to VP, there's just all of the opportunities in the world. And so the question will be, how well can VP do in this position? Because they were putting their opponents in this position last map, and we saw how they never let go of that chokehold. So it'll be interesting to see how VP handle it instead, knowing their fundamentals are as good as they are. And with that said, seems like somewhat of a concentration here for one win towards that right side lane again, ZP.
Yeah, in one win with the 3-man rotation over to the right. Looking for Zergy and Listic in turn. Yamato, a little bit further back. See how deep they want to go in on this here. Meanwhile, you take a look at the left. Could be a 3-man focus into the left lane for VPs. So the rotation part here, super interesting between both teams. Instead, though, we're going to have Mirage just taking the teleporter here, Dan. Lunor, a little bit of pressure into the left line. Overseas able to take down Zergy, and I mean, the 1-win rotation's looking a little bit cleaner so far.
Yeah, and this might be in a little bit of trouble if the paradoxical swap is online, which it is in this case. The gang's coming on through. An attempt at an collection here from VP. I'm not sure how well this may go or not. And again, it's hard to look at the soul distribution. And finally, 4K lead now for 1win, starting to extend it ever so slightly. But more on that in a moment. As the rotations, you can see that VP have to respond to this left lane. They put 2 more players here to even the numbers 3v3.
All right, McKellis in the sky right now, looking for a quick assassinate. Looking, instead just burned down Zergy. Getting them in the corridor, a super high value flame dash. Now they're looking for pocket in turn. That's 3 for nothing in favor of VP. Off on the left. Fantastic rotation there, Dan.
Yeah, and that threat towards the right side lane, now they're starting to look pretty suspect for 1win because they're like they could get some walker pressure, maybe get, stop the from getting turned in. But now this big rotation through the TP, this is looking very hard for 1win. In fact, is there any way to actually take down this Abrams? That would be a good way to start the fight. They're getting a lot of damage there. Indeed, there is the finishing blow. You've got the Vindicta taking Sanya down to 1%.
Picked up by 1win. After Listic gets parried and killed over to the side, 1win's able to pick up the Urn mid-team fight. Xenon with some clear kills before getting taken on down. Zanya now gonna fall. Nothing saving him there, but still getting the Urn away. A massive boon there for 1win ahead of VP at this point, Dan.
Crazy contest coming from 1win there to be able to actually get some value, especially after losing that fight, that 3v3 and going 0v3 against VP on the left lane. That's a great way to keep themselves on that 5k soul advantage, which they were certainly in risk of losing. So now as things kind of reset, we get that left lane cleaned up there now by Xenon on the Mirage, and the map is kind of open right now for both teams.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I like 1win's position a little bit more. I think 1win's comp has better scaling. I think the fact that they opened up the map earlier with the Calico gives them more room to roam. I think Zanya has been on great pace in terms of farm this entire game. So, I mean, for VP, I actually think this game is looking rough for them unless they can clean things up and, just get more contribution from Mo and Holiday on picks at the moment.
And in previous matchups for 1win against VP, they struggled to sometimes convert some of these edges. So we'll have to see if they've grown a little bit here. They find a nice catch there onto Obi-Kim. The Moan Krill is roasted. And here is a response though. VP have a few players, but I don't think the math works here, VP, because what, 3 4 is greater than 2.
And this is a Calico that just gets to dive directly on the McKellis. McKellis running for their life. I think smart disengage from ABL, actually, like not knowing what could be over there, where it was like an Abrams just sitting there ready to charge. You've done enough. You've forced McKellis back. You just go for more jungle, and now they're going to go for the dive on the Listic in turn. Listic in real danger, immediately taken down. And this has just turned into a VP dominant or 1win dominated map the last 5 or so minutes. And, I think it's a good chance. Jason, you've been seeing these rotations here. The Bow and Holiday pressure has been completely different this game.
Yeah, what pressure? Like everyone's been able to do too much. We talked about before with 1win, like they're so successful at getting these picks and so successful at like fighting in the jungle, but they're catching VP off guard, and VP are just left to find some sort of response. Now they're going to be actually the ones to go on the engage here, trying to counter the paradox. So this should be ideally kill, and hopefully the first flex slot open up for VP.
Yeah, and see here, Obi-Kim trying to get out of fire here. Now Yamato coming on in. Listic just immediately getting evaporated. Yamato still in good HP here, Dan. You see Zanya moving forward, and yeah, Obi-Kim's able to get away. But these trades, like repeatedly, the trades just keep going the way of 1win.
They certainly do, and that's what happens when you have all these playmakers. So much burst damage actually as well, and just more mobility in these fights as well. I think that's another huge edge with the playmaker heavy comp like this, is that you're not as reliant on having a front line there. Like, because if you think about Mikhail S, right, in a fight as a Vindicta, he's got to be very conscious of his spacing and his positioning, and he's got to have players in certain spots around him because his mobility is not very good, and his like lethal ranges are quite specific. And so that's the issue playing that hero. Whereas if you look at OneWin's entire comp, they can kind of roll in and out of fights very easily without much setup. So it makes them a lot more dangerous in that regard.
Alrighty, so VP looking for a way back in 11K down. Take a look at overseas here. Moving forward, swap at the ready. Shift over here to Shriek. Gonna be forcing out the shadow transformation from Zanya. Zanya, though, gonna be able to get away. Moving forward, back over to the side, still under pressure. Dodges the snipe from Mikhail, but the follow through still completely there for VP. Gonna turn this into another Guardian takedown. So, not the worst from VP, getting down to Guardian. Getting a little bit closer in terms of overall income, but I'm more interested in how this earn play is going to go, where VP does get to turn it in on their side, Dan.
Yeah, it looks like it might not be contested here. There's nobody that's going to be able to stop this now at this point. So yeah, there's a small bit of value going to VP, and despite the fact that VP are getting run down a bit, they're actually managing to catch up on souls. They're up at a 4K deficit now, and I think at worst maybe around 10K. So they're actually recovering despite losing a lot of these fights and having to consistently react to their opponents. So that's definitely the makings of a comeback, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, overall, still very winnable for VP. I think the problem they're going to run into is one potentially of scaling. Where we're at right now is, Flamble. Hold on to a big bag there is Sinclair. I think the way that's going to be really problematic for VP as this game goes on is that if Zanya starts getting far ahead, if ABL is able to add on to their lead, where ABL is, by the way, a force of nature at this point, at 19K, I mean, a Calco that's far ahead, Dan, can just really force their will in the game, be more aggressive going into the jungle, and go from there, right? Like, VP just has, I think, some scaling issues the longer this goes on.
That's very true. They at least have some good utility to be able to kind of get some of these kills, lock some of these players down. However, here is that aggression you're talking out of ABL on that Calico, just acing down the Moan Krill, finishing it off with the ult, and that's a great kill. And that can definitely snowball into some other pressure here at the same time. Shriek has been spotted on that Wraith on the left side of the map and has now some assistance from Zergy on the Infernus. So they're going to put some pressure onto this Walker, and that's going to force a response here from OneWin. They have to rotate in.
It's a really big response, and this may go terribly for the Infernus Wraith combo. I mean, they lose this fight as this goes in here. Mirage, ready to dive on in, pocket over. They have to get out of here. This is one where it's just simply escape. And they might be able to escape. We'll see. Zergy right now running away. Shriek in heavy pursuit. Shriek really, really low right now. Shriek can be able to fight away out of this. No, Empty Dreams chases it down. So they still give up one there, Dan. And you just looked at the mini map, and it just seemed like inevitability as you saw the rotation coming on in.
What's interesting, though, is that it was, as you say, quite a big response from OneWin. I don't think it was necessarily too much, but that actually did stop OneWin from doing other stuff during that time when they were rotating like that. So despite losing a player there, VP are kind of keeping things even, and they were occupying the time of OneWin. So instead of them reacting to OneWin actually had to react to VP for a change, which I think it did give them a tiny edge there in the end.
You look at the box value in middle, you're wondering, it's like, where's ABL getting this? ABL is not only stealing the jungle, but just gets all the boxes in middle for an even bigger windfall. And I mean, Calco being this far ahead, again, kind of talked about before, but it's dangerous because you look at the minimap right now. If Listic runs into ABL where they're at, that's an L for Listic, like straight up in the moment. But looking here onto the right, Shift, letting Zanya maintain Shadow Transformation. Moan Krill combo gonna be coming out, so right side becoming real spicy. Empty Dream Zone doesn't let Demov get away. Now here, looking on to Obikim. Burrowing forward, just trying to get away from what's going in here. ABL still in hot pursuit, and it's Listic just trying to get away at the moment. Listic a big target, super low, still getting pursued all the while by ABL, and ABL is able to chase it on down.
Yeah, it's kind of the problem you were highlighting with ABL and how far ahead he is at the moment. Previously, just able to be hyper aggressive, go really deep for those chase those chase kills, and they're going to get a walker off the back of those kills and that pressure. So one win, even though it's an 11k lead, they are certainly taking some edges here. And this, if they get a rejuve, that could certainly be a decisive advantage.
Well, then that might get the rejuve, and they might get Sharik if Sharik isn't careful. Sharik was looking like he might get jumped by several at the time, but now they're all in on mid boss. We'll see what sort of contest comes in here for VP. I mean, with Listic still being down, Listic's not going to be able to join this fight, so they have to try and delay Undermanned, and they're not going to do it, especially with the Amato able to shadow transform and secure the rejuve. It just would have been a terrible idea, Dan. Yeah. But now, I mean, VP just continues to stay significantly far behind.
Yeah, absolutely true. And more pressure on these walkers is going to have to be defended by one win, which they'll happily do. This might actually convert into some kills, and that'll be a huge problem if it does for VP. Michaelis will get a walker, but here are those kills coming in response from one win, mounting this defense. And VP, they're fighting it all the way, it seems. I don't think they can get out of here, though. That's going to be pretty ambitious indeed. They're going to go down everywhere. So they decided to get 2 walkers, and they lost 4 players.
It's an interesting choice. I think they realize, okay, we're going to lose mid. We're going to take walkers in turn, but they give up a whole bunch of kills on top of it. You know, good time bringing Jason. I mean, Jason, that was a tactical trade coming in from VP, but given what they might be losing in turn, are you a fan of it?
I think it's tough. Like, if they can defend the left-hand side walker, I think it's going to be kind of a worthwhile trade, because then they're not going to give up another flex slot, and they won't lose out on the entirety of the outside base. I think if they didn't lose 4 players and they got the 2 walkers, if they lost maybe 2 players, that would have been such a good trade for them. But you can see they're heavily reinforced this left-hand side lane, but the teleports are coming in at one win at the same time.
Another walker going down, one win, making good advantage of their Rejuvenator here so far. VP trying to reinforce on the left. See Demov right now, trying to make a little bit of space. Empty Dreams, though, finding Sharik, and the overwhelming pressure from one win where they can just dive, aided by ABL here. Again, moving on in, this time looking for Zergy. Zergy, though, life leeching pretty well, still looking decent. Rabbit Hex or no, Listic able to pick up another. And VP getting really advantageous trades here to an extent, but they're not able to take down all of one win here, Dan.
Yeah, the gets picked up there also by one win, who will likely be able to secure that one. And I actually, it's interesting when you think about it, like getting those 2 walkers, knowing that they were going to lose the rejuve, I actually liked it also because they're going to be even on flex slots with their opponent. And if you think about what the rejuve does, how it pushes the entire map, they wouldn't probably have had an opportunity to even touch those walkers for a very long time afterwards. So if they can just now play more of a stall-based game where they're able to not just lose too much of a soul lead advantage, which they've been trying their best to do, and VP are some of the best at doing it, then I think I like the fact that they sacrifice 4 players for those 2 walkers, and it might play out to their benefit in the long term.
Yeah, I think the downside is that you're down a little bit in economy, and I think for me it's like where the economy allocation is. I mean, we saw Zergy's impact in the last fight, which is pretty substantial on the Infernus, right? But you're still dealing with the fact that you have this like horrifically overfed Calico and ABL forcing a lot of key engagements. Overseas has been very spot on the swaps, and the Amato, relative to most of your team, can just run at most of your team at 24Ks. So, you know, the ideal engagements right now for VP are pretty low unless they could do a combined lasso combo engage, right? And as you see, I mean, ABL just walks in, sees Listic, and Listic immediately just has to bend the knee and leave.
Yeah, and if we look at the disadvantages now here, the 22k, that's actually not too crazy, especially if you get a good engagement. You've got obviously like a tanky Abrams and Mo and Krill. So, I mean, obviously there's always going to be the issue of just the fact that there's so much good scaling on one win, but at least there's a fighting chance if the engagement works out, and you get a bit of focus fire to open things up. There are definitely ways in for VP, as long as they don't get too far behind here. So I feel like this is a controlled bleed at the moment for them, and it's about trying to figure out how not to give up too much at this point. But if we look at how many souls are available on the one win side of the map, that's definitely somewhat of an issue. But one would have to decide, do they farm that or do they put the pressure on VP?
I'm gonna take them apart.
Yeah, I mean, also we just saw Sinclair things that were flammable. Like VP went for a huge rotation to try and like pick off flammable, and Sinclair shift. Actually just ridiculous still, where you just see flammable just go half the map in one teleport effectively. But now on the left hand side, one win was maybe hoping to see someone show up in lane, and in fact someone was about to show up in lane, but they've pulled off the potential ambush early, and right now it's just contesting for jungle and trying to pick off VP. I mean, the rotational chess here, pretty significant, Dan.
Yeah, the TB across from 1win to that right side lane, now rotating back into middle to meet the bulk of VP's lineup, who are sort of falling back a little bit, respecting the forward space from 1win. Again, they know that due to the differential in souls, they've got to be very, very careful about how a fight opens. And so, given the fact that they don't have much visibility on the map right now, they've got to be quite cautious. And this does give an opportunity to 1win again to, farm up a bit more of their side of the map. But mid-boss is coming in sub 1 minute. And I got to say, ZP, even if everything was even between these two teams, I feel like I like the ults and just the mid-boss fight for 1win better from their comp.
1win's in a way better spot unless VP gets a hero play from Dmov and Obikim. I think it really is as simple as that, where VP just has to get the first pick off. But with ABL being so aggressive and providing so much intel on the Calco, it's hard for them to get a good spot. Swap comes in. Is fall through going to be there right now? Look for Mikhail. Sharik. Able to get one down early. VP still looking reasonably healthy. Zergy laying the damage here. Overseas, though, coming on in. We'll get down to Zanya. So VP, this is kind of a good engage that they needed here so far, Dan. They saved the lasso later on for the pocket. They isolate it down. 1win down 3. VP getting themselves back into the game off a pretty good engage, and maybe an ill-timed swap coming in from overseas.
Yeah, that was so good. The fact that they were able to abuse that high ground, but we'll return to that in a second, because there's a defense here on this mid Walker from 1win. They don't have players ready to do this. I don't know that they can keep the Walker alive. It is melting right now. And 1win, they're trying to delay this slightly, but this can't face the superior numbers here, so they're going to give that one up. Be careful not to lose anything in addition, but yeah, really awesome fight. Positioning a few players up on the high rooftops, splitting up the fight, and dictating it with the util advantage that VP have. That was just perfectly done.
Yeah, and I mean, this is how VP stays in games that other teams would have folded. They're still not in a great spot. They're still behind, and all the factors brought up against them are still here. But the fight they did is basically a way to get back in if they're able to just recreate that multiple times. I think the problem here is that I think if you're 1win, you try and force mid-boss fights right now while you're still at an overwhelming advantage. You don't give VP the opportunity to set up a fight that kind of works to their favor, if you can help it.
I totally agree. I feel like, if they make the mid-boss scream, they could even just commit to killing it, because, again, I think the mid-boss fights, like this pit fight, I think the comp is superior for 1win with what they have to work with here and how they can prevent a steal.
They have the Affliction that they could work here. They have the Rabbit X. They have the Amato to secure the Rejuvenator. More than anything else, they're going to secure the Rejuvenator. They're a little bit split, though. I don't like the hard split to secure Rejuvenator. They lose Flammable off that immediately. They're going to give up Earn. VP can get picks here and Earn and bring the economy back into scale. Okay, if 1win only gives up 1, I think it's still better for 1win overall, but I think VP still played this pretty well, Dan.
Yeah, they punished a mistake. I completely agree. Obviously, the split there, I don't think 1win know whether or not their opponents are going to contest. Maybe they were looking for info and they just got caught off of an info play, which is fine. But VP were there to punish it, and with that punish, as you say, secure the earn. It does keep them in much better stead. And 1win, they could have come out of the mid boss, maybe actually created a fight with the whole team there. And Sinclair, that's like the best pick to get. That's a disabler on 1win's team, who's at this point in the game so especially vital. So VP, if they look at what these intelligent engagements from VP have done, they are 9k deficit.
Yeah, and even though they've been giving up mid-boss, I mean, this is way more winnable than it's been. Some of the deficits that they've been dealing with are a lot closer now. And, Jason, you've kind of seen the intelligence coming up from VP here. As a team that's been behind, they've really found a way back into the game to an extent, even down the rejuve.
Yeah, I mean, you can see they're kind of trying to avoid any fights when it comes to like the jungle to not be picked off. That last engagement where Virtus.pro actually won, ignoring the mid boss, was a swap that came in, but they're able to escape off the back of that and catch Empty Dreams just too far engaged with that Majestic leap, and eventually able to snowball the fight from there. I think Virtus.pro, you can never really count them out because they are an insanely good team, even when behind 20, 30k souls, that you can't make a mistake or they're easy to be able to turn things around. You're seeing 1win kind of respect this here as they're really hesitant to go for any of the shrines at the moment.
I think you're a VP. You try and go for a fight here in the interim if you can. I mean, it's a small window, but you got a 20-second window of swap off cooldown. You can make something happen here under the right circumstances. However, they're down lasso themselves right now, so the opportunity perhaps a little bit less good than you might think. I'm also, you know, as these fights continue, Dan, I really want to see Empty Dreams' point of view, because I feel like you're kind of at the point where like a big affliction really can set the tone of the fight one way or another, especially the way Empty Dreams is playing here so far. As I say that, Sharik getting caught, affliction coming off on cooldown right now, so 6v5, still good resources up for one win. Got shrines on the mind right now, moving forward. Zergy backing off. Lasso though, here onto the pocket is the fall through gonna bringing pocket into the fountain. Damage coming in, goes for the cloak, able to get away for now. Mikhail getting caught in turn, and Empty Dreams able to make the great escape.
Oh yeah, so close there. If you get anyone except the pocket there, I mean, they probably don't survive. So that was pretty perfect there for one win. Able to get the shrines down. The patron needs to be taken out as well, but there's another one more trying to go. My mistake. As we get that getting beamed down now. 4 players dead for VP, and one win in great stead here to take down this patron. Are they going to stick around to finish? That's the question.
You take the patron down here, 100%. You don't leave until it's gone, especially with the timers where it's at. Yeah, now you leave. And, oh man, VP gave up a lot of picks there. Just the overall fight not going their way, and one win right now, firmly back at a key advantage. I mean, now VP's stuck in the case where one bad team fight, Dan, and it's just over, right? Like, you just go patron.
Look at that trackball.
Yeah, I feel like the trackball is like against everything you believe as an aimer, Dan. Like, you know, you have a lot of aim videos, a lot of, you know, aim credentials, and trackball is just like an unknowable like box of honestly profane knowledge. I feel like
I should buy one and definitely make a video about it. we got an earn a fight here. This could be the fight to win. Fight there is VP. They're actually pretty close in this hold, but can they win this one against the turn in? VP turning up in full.
It's not turned in yet. Yeah. VP turning up, Listic super low early. Shift has already been used. Shriek able to take down Empty Dreams. The pocket threat is gone. And now they're looking for a little more. Zanya though, able to take down Zergy. VP down 2, 1 win. Still pretty healthy. Zanya about to get Shadow Transformation on top of it. Could be a Yamato clean sweep towards the very end. The urn turned in by Obakim, so VP getting the urn off a rough fight. But, you know, now if you lose 4, does one win just try and end it? One win, the team, Dan, not shy about trying to just go straight for patron.
Oh yeah, oh man, it's they got so many options here, and it's also getting kind of scary. You can see that, like, hey, even if you take down like Empty Dreams, the damage output now, especially from like, even if you ignore ABL, but just like the Mirage from Xenon is actually outrageous at this point. Creates so many problems. Holy. Okay, well they should be able to finish this here. We got VP a little bit spread out.
They want to get picked. I think if they get picked, they would go straight for patron. This is actually so scary at the one for VP. They're looking for the bow. Are they going to be able to get the bow here? Mo in real danger. Mo down. I think that's a signal to go here. One win. They decide it is patron time. VP still so many people down for another 10 seconds. The patron is getting pummeled, and that is going to be one win. Seizing the opportunity, taking down the patron, and taking map 1 away from VP, showing you guys might have abdicated the throne, but we're staying on this throne, man.
Yeah, hell yeah. One win with the opening victory. That's awesome to see. Got a game on our hands here in this best of 3, and VP, the onus is now on them to figure out how they correct going into the next draft. And I know we will have a lot to say about that, but one win, I mean, there were some moments there where they almost gave up their lead because of great fundamentals from VP, great discipline, great team play, great calling. But in the end, one win didn't throw it away, and they managed to close out. That's brilliant to see. It's definitely been an issue for them in the past, so I'm happy to see it.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I think we kind of called it at the beginning, right? We were talking about, like, okay, what needs to be done. I don't think the early game was good enough for VP for the comp they're running, and one win, I think eventually they just scaled over the top. But, you know, got to bring Jason back in, and Jason, to me, the real standout was the overwhelming pressure ABL put in on this map on the Calico. It was just ridiculous on all ends.
I think the freedom he had really allowed him to, you know, keep that pressure up that you're discussing. Also, the box farming that he was doing, I paid attention to his health at the very end. He had 3.6k health on a Calico. Like, he was almost even with a Moa and Krill, supposed to be extremely tanky on the other side. He was just really no answer to what he could do. We saw him farming boxes in middle. We saw him constantly roaming around the map. The thing is, OneWin consistently kept getting catches on VP in the jungle, and we're able to turn those into objectives. And there's so many like individual moments. I think back to the double walker take that VP went for after giving up mid boss. They get the double walker, they lose 4 players, and then they lose their last walker, giving up that extra flex slot over to OneWin. And I feel like because of that, they started to lose a lot of map control, but there's also a lot of other situations where they just lost like too many players. And that whole Mo and Holiday combo that we saw be so successful against Paravision in map 1, it didn't do anything this time. I feel like when they finally got to the point to use the combo, it was almost too late because OneWin are already starting to roam around and they couldn't get those picks, especially when we got into the later stages of the game.
Yeah, it was so impressive to see how this kind of came together. I think, yeah, ABL's like ability. I never really thought about this, like that strength that Ava has, like going into just running through all the boxes, how much time that probably saves. But obviously ABL knows all the tricks of the trade here, just being an immensely important part of the front line. And also like it's kind of hard too when you've got no tanky, like, you know, inherently tanky heroes in front of you, like a Mokril, Abrams, and these types of things, because there's a lot on you to survive and to make sure that you know what that line is, how far you can kind of go. And ABL seems to have such a good feel for it. And we can see kind of the power behind that too, because it creates all this space for all of the other brawlers that they have on the lineup.
Oh, this stat line is actually gross. That is the only way you can describe it from ABL. Like, I will go down the mat here and say that I don't think we're going to be seeing OneWin play Calico the next 2 maps. It's not going to happen. You would be ridiculous if VP were to allow this again, because, I mean, look, ABL has shown Calico as one of their best heroes historically over and over again, but man, was the point made here where you talk about the eye test. You know, Jason, you brought up the box story. We even saw it a little bit on stream. The stat line isn't even including all the boxes that ABL devoured or how much of the jungle that ABL took was actually the VP jungle. I mean, look, you're trying to learn how to play Calico. You take this match ID and you just watched ABL this game, because it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, I mean, I really wish we had a stat to show on screen, like how much extra percent he gained off of boxes and also on enemy boxes versus his own. But at the end of the day, like, they don't need a front line if they can just overwhelm you in damage and get a pick on you. Like, the thing is, you don't need a tank if you're not going to have a prolonged fight. And if it's not going to be a 66 fight, because it's going to be a 65 since you're killing someone so quickly. The constant catch in the jungle against Virtus.pro, I think, is what gave them that really strong start. But obviously, mid lane being punished quite heavily. We saw, was it 2 Guardians, extremely low on health, fairly early on for them as well, getting that first flex slot unlocked very quickly. I mean, Virtus.pro, I mean, I don't know. I'll say for OneWin, I kind of was extremely harsh on them, saying they're kind of one-dimensional in terms of like what they're playing and what their game plan is. The thing is, if your game plan works, then you don't really have to show any other dimensions to your team if you're able to beat the best team in EU with the strat that you've done in the past.
Yeah, I think what was really interesting, I forget who made the point, but the way that you see the comp maybe indexing for these like really powerful playmakers that dominate lanes, even though the early game is so important, it does make sense that you just forgo some of these supports that may essentially not come online early enough to be able to stop that. And I think that's what we kind of saw in a lot of the lanes that VP were running against this type of like playmaking comp that OneWin, I think almost uniquely love to run this many playmakers. So really cool to see.
Well, all I know here is that OneWin, a lot of people going into this thought, okay, it'll just be VP taking the throne back. No, OneWin has thrown down the gauntlet. They are defending the throne. They're up 1 map against the often kings of Europe in VP and want to say, we will be the kings this time around. Can VP have it in them to bring it back, or will OneWin be the champions once more? Join us after the break. We are back here at Deadlock Fight Night number 20. That's right, we've done this 20 times. There's still plenty more yet to come. ZP here with Dan, and Dan, you know, a lot of people went into this thinking, oh, it's VP, they'll just take the throne right back. OneWin says no. They come in, they defend the middle lane, ABL puts on a masterclass, and now VP, if they want the bonus prize pool of $2,000 this week, they're gonna have to win 2 in a row.
Yeah, and they've got to make sure that their early game can perform a bit better to ensure that they can do that, because they did keep the game close despite giving up some of those edges in the early game. So they did a good job there, but then they run into that scalability issue. They ran into the issue of how do we deal with all these heavy playmakers that are pretty farmed. And so OneWin, I've got to respect the fact that even though they didn't have the best performance against VP the previous bout in the finals, they are sticking to their guns. They're not changing their strategy, their stylistic approach, their hero pools. They're the same. They're just doing it better.
And of course, to break down what could be our final map with $2,000 on the line in our money match, we got to bring Jake back into the fray. And, you know, Jake, one thing I do wonder, and this is kind of a pop quiz, because we didn't talk about it a lot in the last match, but I do feel like it kind of goes to the entire idea of map pressure, is that, you know, how much, you know, we focused a lot on the Calico, but there's also a Mirage that is let through. And I feel like when Mirage gets let through, the Mirage team just generally tends to win, even if it's not the Mirage themselves being flashy, just because of the extra map control you get from having a Mirage on your team.
Yeah, you know, I think one of those key moments where I really felt the impact of the Mirage in that last game, where, you know, once One Win had the advantage pretty decisively, VP is like turtling through some of the rejubes. You know, having the Mirage means that you just have, well, 5 of the One Win players are like holding the chokes at the base, you know, Paradox looking for pickoffs, looking for opportunities. Everyone on VP is playing very conservatively, very safely. They don't want to take a fight into the rejuve. But Mirage, the entire time, he's just hard farming. He's clearing lanes, making sure that, you know, any lanes that have been pushed out by VP are being dealt with. He can be taking jungle camps. And so, it puts this clock on your opponents where you can commit everyone else to being ready to team fight with your advantage. And Mirage just expands the lead little by little over time, that, you know, he has no penalty for farming, since he's going to be in the team fight no matter where it takes place.
Yeah, I think that's it's interesting, because it's a great take on the fact that some teams like to play a 7 in that role, and 7 obviously does have the issue of like, can he be in the team fight? Well, no, not if he's farming. So yeah, that's that unique capacity for Mirage to do that. Yeah, totally agree. But the fun thing is that there's so many other problems. If we cast our minds back, the opening ban from VP was the Bebop. I feel like they can't necessarily afford to do that, but then they let the Bebop open. Overseas obviously has a great Bebop, but at the same time, I don't actually want to see one would necessarily run the Bebop. So this is an interesting spot now.
I think for me, based on what we saw in the last map in terms of draft priority, I do think you have to go a little bit back to the basics. I would say number 1, don't give up the Mirage. And then if you're VP and you can deny Mirage and get or deny Calico at the same time, I feel like that's step 1 for me, Jake, as I look at this here. I think those are the 2 things that probably like really hurt VP the most, and then adapt as needed from there on out in terms of setting up your lanes.
I hope you're happy.
I don't think it's easy, though, for Virtus.pro. I think there's a lot of contested heroes right now. We talked about ABL's Calico being like just a force of nature in the last game. We're just talking about Mirage. You know, Bebop, I think, is a serious threat, you know, in the mid lane, especially for potentially dealing with the Mo or countering some of that. We are going to see some change, though, with the holiday opening ban. It's going to force some sort of different looks in this game. I'm curious to see if VP would prio a Paradox more highly than normal, given that, you know, it is the especially with Bebop ban, it's kind of like the last remaining option. I could see One Win just opening with the Paradox, though. Given these bans, seems like a really limited commodity having that catch and initiation.
Or they get the Calico again.
I don't think they open Calico. I think that it's going to be Paradox or Mirage that's taken here. Probably, I would actually argue Mirage, but it depends on how much they value the playmaking with Holiday out. Will be either of those 2. Okay, and they go Mirage. I think Paradox is going to be off the board here. I think if you're VP, you Paradox Calico. That's my take there.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. You know, obviously the Paradox when the Holiday's been banned, super huge pickup. It puts One Win in this interesting spot where I think the kind of like initiation they would want, they don't really get it out of a Lash, because the swap or the lasso is going to be really good for ganks, whereas you can't really get Lash with that Death Slam. It's not as burst off for those just like rolling through the jungle, getting those random ganks. So the Calico gets stolen. I like this. I like the VP are kind of trying to take away from some of One Win's pool just by picking it straight up.
I think Pocket is another hero we've got to talk about. I agree with you though, ZP. Frankly, I think the Paradox is so valuable given the bans, you know, very limited options for that role on the team. But I think Pocket is something that if you don't take it now, I think One Win will likely get it in their response here, which may just be, you know, the way the draft goes. But already I feel One Win in a relatively comfortable spot, if they can, you know, grab the Pocket here in the next 2. I think they're going to be feeling pretty good, as like that was a key playmaker last week. I think it is a key factor in the future, although maybe without the Calico will be a little bit less overall burst potential.
Yeah, I mean, they have to get the Pocket here or it's going to get banned in the midway, right? Like, I think there's no real way around that.
Or stolen. I mean, VP would love it, I think.
Yeah,
well,
they open with it. I mean, it's kind of weird too. I mean, they do have other players that can play Pocket on VP other than like Mikhail S, but it's probably gonna be Mikhail S on the Paradox. Now I do wonder here for One Win is that you have to get a frontliner and a good frontliner because you don't have a Calico here, right? Which was a key part of their strategy. So I wonder here if they choose a frontliner with this pick. It could be anything from a Mo. It could be the Abrams, even though I don't think they really like Abrams all that much. But instead, they want the power of the Great Talon instead.
I love the GT here. I think this is like sort of a preemptive soft counter to the Vindicta, where it's like doesn't feel so good picking Vindicta for VP right now. That being said, it has been, you know, Michaelis on the Vindicta historically, and you'd expect him to go back to the Paradox. It makes this game pretty exciting because, frankly, it's been a couple weeks since he's played the Paradox, which was a signature hero for months and months, just like the #1 Paradox in the game, pretty much decisively in Europe. And now he's been on the Vindicta, so I'm kind of excited to see what Michaelis brings in this match. And they're going to go with an earlier pick of the Mo Krill. I actually like this because I think this likely would have been banned out in the ban phase, and I think this is a great option in the late game with Phantom Strike to get on Great Talon, you know, in like the early to mid game, being able to catch Pocket after he cloaks, or like in any kind of momentary lapse in your full protection. Mo can catch that Pocket and really turn that fight around. And there's a lot of change CC with Paradox as well, setting up with the wall.
The Kelvin ban's interesting too, because I'm wondering how much OneWin actually value the Kelvin pick. Would they really take it? Does VP know something maybe that we don't? Because we see how comfortable OneWin is with not going really any pure supports. Like Sinclair is the closest that we've seen in that last draft. So, and Sinclair might be open again for OneWin, and I think Yamato will probably be open for OneWin as well late into this draft. I don't see VP like necessarily valuing those two too highly, but VP are changing their draft here, so we might see a switch up. Abrams was, I mean, they got the Mokrill and then the Abrams in these positions last time, so we're going to see an Abrams again. How much of a deviation will we get?
I mean, we might see the Abrams. It depends on who's playing the Calico. I think it's interesting they decided to ban the Vindicta, because I don't necessarily think that VP was going to pick Vindicta with Paradox already being picked. Like, yes, they do have other people that can play Paradox or Vindicta, but with who's been playing what, I think they really just wanted to keep Michaelis on the Paradox. So I think the Vindicta ban here may have been a little bit of a misstep by OneWin. The 7 coming in here, I think, is good. It lets Zergy just play the 7, or I mean, it could be Listic with how they're done here, but I think in this case, this feels like it would be a Zergy on Listic sort of game. But we'll see what the turn is. Yamato on the other side here, Jake. You know, OneWin, they made it work last time.
Yeah, you mean Yamato has been a pretty heavy scaler. I think both of these teams have just leaned more and more away from supporting in general, you know, conceptually. Over the last few weeks, it feels like it was like first, you know, drip, and then now it's like almost no one's picking support right now. I feel like people are seeing that, you know, everyone can get farmed. We can just play to like win all of our lanes and have, you know, more snowballing potential. And, you know, heroes like Mo and Krill and Paradox, it's like they're not going to be like the damage carries, but they do provide control, they provide lockdown, and support in one sense is like, what does that really mean? I guess you could think of like Kelvin as like he's a healer, but even the other heroes conventionally picked to support like Ivy, you know, it's like they do sort of heal, but mostly they're just like brawling characters that have like, you know, their own unique utility. So I feel like the classification support, if anything, has just kind of gone out of favor in modern Deadlock. More and more people are looking for heroes that get active and have their own openings, their own initiation, that aren't just relying on enabling one other key player.
And interestingly, we're going to get the Abrams taken by OneWin, and it does make sense. Yeah, like Listic is going to be on Calico. Yeah, I think you're totally right, CP. So a bit more of a tanky front line. Sinclair might be open here for OneWin. I feel like that's probably a good pickup here in the final slot, because again, they get a bit of that disable, a bit of that utility, super strong laner still. So it all kind of taps into what they were good at in the previous matchup. So it feels like Sinclair's a good pick for this final slot.
Yeah, I think you're totally
copy
right
as well.
Yeah, I think the Sinclair
solid copies.
Yeah, Flammable is really like the Sinclair, and it's like support-esque in this sort of setup. So yeah, I 100% think that Sinclair will be the final pick here. And I mean, overall, I like how the comps have kind of broken out here. I think both teams have like options for victory and how this has been set up. I think it's way better draft though for VP than we saw in the last round. I think in particular, they just also have a pretty big playmaker advantage here, Jake, where OneWin has maybe more overall like map options with the Mirage and the GT just being able to, you know, owl the entire map. But in terms of just raw playmaking potential, you're running a Mo with a Paradox. Like, VP can easily scale out of control, especially with the Calico backing that up too.
I like this from both teams. They're doubling down on the early game, doubling down on getting that early edge. I will say, to VP's credit, especially last game, I thought they played really well from behind. I think historically, that's what's made them this like undefeatable champion team. That even when they're behind, they're maybe the best team in the world at making the comeback. There's other teams that can snowball the lead. They're great at that too. But really, that's where I think they differentiate themselves. That being said, I think, this being your back against the wall in a $2,000 money match, one-win team, they want to finish it here. They want to get the win. Like you guys said, though, I think VP have a much better shot to even this up and potentially force us to a game 3.
All right, well, we've got the opening lane of matchups there, and within the first 20 seconds, he's got a kill.
What?
Kills. Make it 2.
Oh
right.
man, I wish we had an instant replay of that one, because that just feels like Perry shenanigans. Like, how in the world? And then Sharik just goes for the free heal. Or that's intentional. They go for the double free heal, so they get the income from the early part, and now they're just gonna like come right back out the lane.
Yeah, for a second there, I thought he was, I thought that was unintentional, but.
No, that was full intentional. That was just a swap of health bars, but one side got kill credit and the other side did not. So when we talk about mid lane being so impactful, you can't really ask for a better start than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yamato pocket there for one win. It's going to be interesting to see how that's going to perform against Calico Mo. Calico Mo, that's actually so oppressive from VP. You would expect VP, I think, at least have a much stronger early lane phase here. Obviously, Jake's still on the line. Jake, what's your estimation of these lane matchups? I don't think we got your take just yet.
Well, I mean, that opening kill is so impactful in mid, especially with the double health reset. So I think VP are going to look to slow things down just a little bit. But if they can get like a couple more kills and start to compound their advantage or focus on the last inning, that could be a lane in which they look to get an edge. I am a little bit worried, though. I think the Abrams and Sinclair lane is actually disgusting in terms of like the amount of stun control in this lane. This is super scary for the VP counter lane. I think they need to just be like fully defensive, kiting everything. If you get caught by any of these control skills, you're going to be chained to death.
Obakim getting caught in middle, and it might not look too much better here for the Calco on the other end. Sharik can't get away, and just like that, one win, that's more than evening up middle. They're going to get ahead from this, Dan.
That's huge, and especially given the fact that, okay, we've got ABL. Yeah, he's not on the Calico, but he's on the pocket instead, and ABL has shown immense versatility on these playmaking heroes, and his pocket was a treat to watch in the past. So that's an exciting prospect for us. But for VP, they got to be careful about this one. Back on the lane now. There's that barrage. Oh, connects almost all of it. Oh my god, there's so much damage. Oh my god, the damage is crazy. ZP, it's so hard to get all the barrage to connect, and then to get the cloak and the satchel right after.
When have we seen a Mo get this bullied in recent memory? It has not happened. I'm just going to answer that question that I've already asked. This is a disaster for VP. $2,000 on the line. The celebration of DFN 20 and the middle lane has just been a steamroller even after the good start. They need help, but they're not going to get help that early, and Mo's already almost dead.
Holy Mo is getting drilled by the ult fire there from Yamato.
They're dropping the well played in chat. One win's feeling it. They Kim's down again. VP is collapsing before our very eyes, Dan. This is actually ridiculous.
I mean, we talked about how good they are at like really not giving away edges or making mistakes to take advantage of, but that's not necessarily calling those mistakes, but they're definitely getting a bit crushed there in mid after the opening that looked good for them. Okay, how worrying is this, Jake?
This is what we call bad. Pocket is, I think, one of the most dangerous. I mean, two of these heroes can both snowball like crazy. I think there's like a little bit of an opportunity here, but honestly, not much. We're gonna see heavy pressure now. Although Pocket, if he goes down to Mo, would be a big trade. I think what's really scary is in a few minutes, once that mid Guardian goes down, we're gonna see more trades come in. This is their first kill, is solid for them. But Yamato has ulti. I don't think you're gonna be able to kill this Yamato.
Yeah, Yamato able to drop the Shell transformation in turn, gets Obakim down again. How many times Obakim died right now in this match? Sharik also about to go down. This middle lane just needs immense amounts of help. Wait, Sharik? Wait, there's a possibility. There's a chance. Sharik actually might have turned this around. Do we either want to commit here? Oh! Big from Sharik. That's huge.
Oh, wow. What a start. What
Yeah,
a
this may be the
start.
most entertaining middle lane we've had in a long time.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. There's some action on the side lanes. They just want to be a part of it. They want to be a part of the story, but it's still about that mid lane. I feel the Talon Owl comes in on the mid lane as well. I don't know if that's going to connect. Trying to find the Calico, who is very weak. And okay, Shriek manages to dodge the Owl there in the hits. Stay alive. But
The
look how
ridiculous
oppressive
thing.
this is.
The ridiculous thing for me, Mo still doesn't have combo. You're not afraid of a Mo at this point in the game with no combo, where Kim is about to get it up, but half HP, and man, the Guardian has just been getting pummeled in turn. They know the Scorn's on cooldown. You see the extra pressure coming into the Mo as a result. Throws out the cape for good turn. Could be a dive here. Maybe. I mean, the Wacko respect is huge. Xenon, meanwhile, over in the left, finding Listic. And, you know, overall economy-wise, Dan, it's not that far out of reach, but it's felt more one-sided than perhaps it's been.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's looking really scary for VP. I like even though the other lanes are looking okay, from what at least it seems like all the other lanes are okay. Just that mid lane's obviously so important. It's the nature of it, of these advantages, and just I love also you see ABL get a little bit ahead with Zanya, and they just don't stop the pressure. They just keep piling on the damage, keep piling on the pressure, and they don't really allow their opponents to breathe and trying to get into a position for barrage here potentially. Oh no, an affliction, my mistake. And that look at that damage. If you're Sharik, you have to back off. You've got no choice, and that means more tower damage.
I think the affliction here, that's a key point, right? Is that Sharik can't stay. Sharik has to go back to base. Now you're just gonna take this free time and get Middle Guardian. Middle Guardian should go for one win here in just a moment. So you kind of see the power of putting Pocket in the middle lane just from situations like that.
Incredible. Yeah, really, really powerful stuff here. The Pocket, I feel like the stocks are just rising all the time on this Pocket, and just the way that ABL's playing it, fantastic work. And they might just go for the dive here. Very, very low. There's a flying strike. Okay, well, ult comes out, the Shadow Form to try to get out of there. We'll see if that's going to be enough. It looks like it will be, but that's just Sharik just out of action again, having to fall off. So considerable damage. That mid tower's now been taken out, and now you're going to unlock ZP, the Pocket, and the Yamato 1-win.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen here is Zanya's going to stay more towards the middle, and now it's going to be ABL going, oh, I don't have to middle? Time to roam. The right lane, perhaps the first target here, but Zanya diving in, taking the fight for Zakalko. Restorative Locket can be used. Use Shadow Transformation, hunts down Sharik in the corner. No cares given. Meanwhile, Overseas on the Sharik. And, man, you look at ABL in this Pocket, again, it's just full-on jungle steal time. That's all it is right now, Dan.
Yeah, and well, I'm gonna hold my thought for a second. We've got a bit of action there. On this lane, in comes ABL on the Pocket, doing the burst damage. Is looking so devastatingly scary at the moment. Even though like he's on soul parity with everybody else, still makes him. I feel like he's 12k souls right now, just double everybody else, but he's not. It's just the confidence, it's the plays, and in from the back with the smack to the head there onto Zenon, and that is going to be another kill coming for VP.
Another Guardian
as well. So they're doing a good job in like trying to maintain some kind of control.
Yeah, I mean, VP's able to at least get a Guardian trade there, but 2 Guardians down, it's going to even increase 1-1's access to the VP jungle even more. Take a look here at middle, though. A little bit of pressure from Zergi on the 7, now saying, okay, we are going to go try and get another Guardian down here. A little bit of reallocation into the middle. Great Talon Owl, though, out and over. Going on a long, long trek here. What's it going to find? Over. It's almost out, and it just blows up into the air. It's a firework.
Get this guy piloting a Boeing. Everything will be fine.
I mean, that's just doubling down at that point, Dan. Like, you've doubled your points of failure. Flammable, finding Zergi. 1 win. Reinforcing middle after VP, did pull Zergi over. Trying to get Middle Guardian down sooner rather than later just to deal with this edge. That's just dealing with them. Oh, Mo out of the closet! Mo out of the closet! There's some walkers right there, but it's not enough to kill Zanya. Oh, boy.
Behind door number 1. Well, the pressure continues there on the mid lane. Shadow Form activated. And it's going to be a passive play. But the pressure is crazy here. I love also, by the way, the presence from overseas on the Grey Talon. You can see kind of why VP banned it previously. The Grey Talon, like the Owls were coming into that mid lane over and over and over again on the early laning phase, applying more pressure. So really excellent stuff here. The fight over this mid buff.
Yeah, swing and a miss. Pocket not getting the buff. Meanwhile, the Overseas was still able to kill McKLS. Relatively quiet game for McKLS so far. Viscous under pressure, goes into a cube, but there's a whole lot of pain potentially waiting, but nope, able to get away. Xenon instead dying in turn. Trade out for both sides. And, you know, for how this started here, Dan, the fact that it's within about 7K, not the worst for VP.
It's not the worst. I mean, this is what we talked about the previous game too. They're really good at sort of making it a controlled bleed and not losing too heavily, without allowing it to compound too much. But this is, it feels pretty scary right now. Look at the damage coming in. But VP turning up in numbers here to gang up on the Yamato. Looks like an escape will be made, and we back into the action. Oh my god, these queen strikes! How on earth is he phasing through space and time to hit that one?
For a mid-air right click on the top, you know, the cameraman's demise in that corridor. You know, difficult to get a good shot, but you know, overall they just tried to kill the Yamato. Yamato's able to live. Comes at the cost of the pocket, but interesting fight where the urn is now left to its own devices for a moment. Zanya, though, eventually going to pick it up, which was the goal to begin with.
Well, the urn is going to be collected, and it's going to be deposited. There will be a challenge, it seems. No also available. The cloud form is not online at the moment. So you have to be careful about this.
They go for the swap. Maybe they get the focus fire here onto the Abrams instead. Going back a little bit. You got Mo back into the fight. Swap coming in, stolen by the Sinclair. Just a quick little swap. Meanwhile, here comes the pocket moving on in. No affliction, but still can drop plenty of burst damage in turn. One win. Looking for pickoffs here. They lose Empty Dreams in turn. Both teams down one here so far. Aren't going to get picked up by one win over. Looking for the turn. And instead the combo comes in. Forces the urn drop. And both teams fighting tooth and nail over the urn. Viscous back over in. Flammable able to take down Listic though. VP down 2. And I think the more wounded of the two teams here. Urn still in play. Flammable dropping the goo ball. What's going to happen here? Mikhail able to take down Flammable. It is so back and forth right now between both sides. Urn still in play. Stormcloud though has come back up and he goes right back down. Taken out of the sky via Power Slash.
Perfectly timed Power Slash there. That cloud form, it was on cooldown for so long. Such poor timing, but look at the damage here. The Yamato, oppressive force in the front line, brawling and just now isolating the remainder of VP, finding them in these small corridors. Forced out though, but however, there are teammates to clean up for one win. So they're going to come out on top there, and they're going to force some of these players back to base. In the meantime, VP do have the ability to take down that mid tower potentially. Sharik is putting the pressure on. Is he going to be able to get it in time? Okay, response comes in from Sinclair. There's the Hex, and a lot of damage off the back of that, forcing out a small heal off of them. Wait, what's it called again? I want to say medallion. It's not medallion. Lock it.
Lock it. Rejuvenating lock it. But hang on. Yamato through space and time on the Obakim for like the 8th time this game. Obakim gonna fall for showing his face over into the left. A Guardian down in turn. All 3 Guardians now down in favor of one win. And this it's gotten bloody here. And oh, Zergy on a knife's edge there, Dan. Owl coming out right after. Look at Zergy. Zergy's just crying for help right now. Unbelievable. I think Zergy's gonna live. Zergy kind of the GOAT. Getting out of that one, Dan.
Yeah, and well, we have pressing matters here on the mid lane as well. More forward pressure coming in from VP actually, but they might get chased down here, trying to make their escape. And looks like they're going to be able to do so. Great work from them to get out of that. But in the meantime, ABL up to the same shenanigans here, and it's Listic. He now has to, or rather, sorry, it is Sharik who has to now try to survive here. I don't know if I like the look of it. It's a Calico, but this is going to be difficult. Tornado comes in, more damage to Cube is going to be there to assist. That is so timely.
Yeah, and not only timely, you also got Zergy back in the fight. Stormcloud, ready to go, goes to the zip line. Ready going over the top of DB, but things calm down. And this has been so back and forth, I feel like, for the last 5 minutes. Good time to bring in Jake, but Jake, this has been like some of the closest team fight I think we've seen in a long time. Yeah,
you got to give huge respect to VP right now. I mean, like, under the pressure they were on in the early game, one win, we're spamming the well plate. I think they thought they could just, like, blow this game out of the water. but VP have made it incredibly close. The quick rotation, showing up when they're getting ganked, not letting one win just snowball over them the way they have against so many other teams. Still, Zanya having a huge game. I think really performing the Yamato opens the fight now with the ulti.
Parry in early. Mo win for combo opportunity, but instead Mo just dead. The first target in all these fights. Earn, meanwhile, dropping down on the right side. Owl in transition. See how we're gonna hit here as Shriek picks up the Urn instead. Hits the Walker in the back of the leg.
Overseas Airlines, man. Well, look how deep one winner are in the jungle of VP. Stealing from them. They won't have it though. We've got Ballistic in there, trying to force Flammable all the way back. Oh my god, the damage is actually kind of crazy. And we're going to get a finish there, thanks to the dots. Good presence from VP on the urn. So that's going to allow them to pick it up. But the next step is depositing it. And they don't have control, VP on that left side.
Yeah, I mean, the lane situation on the left, not really ideal for VP as they're heading over. Or by the way, I feel like Obakim now has just fully embraced the support mode, where it's like, might be dying first every fight, but still looking for ways to get things done. But things are really developing here between left and middle at the moment. All centered around the Urn. It's going to be a full team fight taking place. So right now, taking a look at Zanya, looking for a way out. Zergy, Stormcloud just bursted on down with an owl to boot over the top. So VP, down Zergy early. One win still at decent health. AB Elbow might be in danger, getting really, really low. Spring Fire in from the Amato. Urn still in control of VP in the back here, though, Dan. So they give up one pick, but the Urn still a question to be answered.
Yeah, it is. I don't know how much one winner will care about it. I think they can kind of do two things at once. They can kind of deal with the Urn by just pressuring the jungle and pressuring the Walker on the left side. And they can continue to get value out of the kills on the creeps, the kills on the neutral camps, while still preventing the Urn from getting picked up. So I don't think they're losing too much here with the sort of Urn pick up and drop that we're seeing from VP right now. And in the meantime, VP are trying to get some pressure on the right side lane, but we get that TP from Mirage across. So that's a 2v2 on the right side. And favorable numbers here. They're 3v2 for one win on the left side.
Yeah, one win is Zora committed to the left and trying to get a little bit of jungle while on the left side too. Is what we've been seeing so far. Calco, though, take a little bit of fisticuffs here with the Sinclair. Calco able to get away before the full pain comes in with 4 members of one win on the left side. So you have 2 basically on Urn duty, and now VP trying to get value off on the right side. Might be doing just that. They chase down Empty Dreams, get rid of the option of him using Traveler, get into the fight. Now, quick swap coming on in. Cube right after. We'll see what rotates over on the left. You got Geist coming on over. Same with Abrams. A little bit of fisticuffs onto the teleporter. Overseas finding Shriek while this goes on, and Zanya just threads in the Urn.
All right, well, again, it's so interesting. I feel like if you couldn't see this, the soul counter, you would not expect it to be as close as it is. It's only an 11k difference, even though it feels like VP are really on the receiving end of just a brutal beating, like just again and again in a lot of the fights. The map control is not really going their way either, or the jungle invades, but still, it's only a 12k difference.
A lot of the beating you would be excused for thinking is that most of the beating has gone on the Obakim. There's been, let's say, a punching bag, but into the vaults right now. Invade opportunity right now for one win, and they just kill Listic where he stands. So they invade from one win into the double vault zone. Right now, looking pretty effective. Mikhail S. going for the swap and turn right now. Same thing, come of the swap. Zergy drops a Stormcloud, but instead it's Flammable. I think Flammable just copied Stormcloud in the moment. That wasn't Zergy's Stormcloud at all, so one of the more valuable Sinclair copies, and now opens the way for mid-boss, and I think this is a great call. You don't have to worry about Stormcloud on the other end, which is one of the spoilers to make this difficult. And do they go for the contest here, Dan, is my question.
Yeah, I feel like the Stormcloud is indeed that trump card here. I don't know that they have any chance to go for this, especially against the Yamato. They can kind of guarantee this pickup.
And the Owl for good measure. You burn 2 ults just because you don't want anything weird happening. I think that's a good investment by one win, so they secure it. Now do they get pickoff here on top of it? All of them back out looking for Mikhail S. In turn, they get the Walker is D-Mob, so they do a Walker trade. They end up losing Mikhail in the process.
Yeah, they're chasing down these kills, and they're doing so excellently. This is a big problem. This is a big problem. The last time we were at this stage in the previous map between these two teams, where OneWin were able to secure the reju, OneWin actually gave up a pick. VP had a good way to take initiative and keep defending and kind of resist against it. But this time, it's much more one-sided. Maybe this is a good spot for Jake to come in, add his thoughts, because this is a kind of a pivotal moment.
Yeah, I think OneWin have shown today in this series that they've fixed a lot of their historical issues, which I think were in the late game, like their ability to, clean up advantages. They've always been a great team at winning these dogfights, at like making good trades in the early game. But historically, they had made mistakes in this position. They had given teams chances to come back in the game, and it feels like they've really cleaned up right now. They're really showing what VP do against a lot of teams, where they're just like strangling the map right now. And I think the onus is on VP to do the impossible, to come out of the map and win a team fight into reju. If they don't, though, OneWin are just going to get further ahead.
Well, looking for the urn turn in now. VP looking on the contest. Mikhail able to take down Xenon early. Stormcloud in from Zergio at the top. This is a high-value Stormcloud coming on in, denying space. Gonna give VP the urn. They get the picks. They get the urn. Oh, my word. OneWin might have just thrown away their advantage and then sub from just going too aggro on the urn turn in. Unbelievable, Dan.
What were you saying, Jake?
Legend caster curse for me. Legend. You're welcome, VP fans in the chat. I mean, honestly, really well played to them. I think the fact that they were very ready for that urn turn in, I mean, this is what makes VP so good. When they're behind, even with the soul disadvantage, they're still really good at the positional game, at playing the fights. And honestly, they pretty much even the game up. I'd still say with the couple rejuves that OneWin have available, they're in a decent spot here. But I think this game is very winnable now for VP. That was a miracle team fight.
Yeah, I mean, VP, they fully even up. You look at the end results here, and you think about both these teams in the end game. I mean, I think it's relatively even, Dan, as far as end game power here. You can make arguments for both. Maybe, arguably, even a slight advantage of VP, just given the fact that you get the Geist scaling in the end, even though you have to deal with the Yamato. So long as the Mo is on Yamato duty, you can limit how much Zanya is able to do. So, to me, this is really wide open, about as much as it gets for this point in the game.
Yeah, I think so too. And we saw that in the previous game when things looked grim, that this is a deficit that VP are pretty comfortable playing from. And they do have, I think, better scaling ultimately in their roster. So should be interesting to see how OneWin try to recover from this position. They've got 4 players on this left side lane. So they can start to pressure this Walker. And they're trying to lay a trap there, but that's like Listic's not biting.
Yeah, I mean, they're hoping someone comes over to the left. I mean, okay, you got Mikhail coming over the lane. You got 2 in lane, but the opportunity is kind of passed. And now they're going, okay, we will eat jungle for the moment. You kind of have this ebb and flow between grabbing jungle versus looking for ganks, right? And they had a moment, they're like, okay, we're going to look for a gank. And now, doesn't happen, back to jungle. As, a little bit of contest on that jungle coming in from D-Mov saying, you'll get this rooftop for free.
Yeah, I think it was a bit too telegraphed, that previous gank attempt, because VP had vision in mid and all on the right side of the map, so they knew where they were, I think. Okay, well, speaking of which, VP now have a huge amount of players here over to the right side. But OneWin coming in from the left side, they might get a good contact on this ball. In fact, they're splitting up the VP team, so 2 players isolated, 3 players potentially isolated here that OneWin could try to focus down. But no, VP just completely disengaging.
Really smart disengage call coming on in. Both teams, I think, treating the other with a whole lot of respect. I mean, VP, they got back into this from a very hard-fought urn fight. And now I do wonder, Dan, if it's going to be relatively calm up until we get to the next turn, which will be in about a minute or so. We'll see. I mean, OneWin, a little bit of aggression, some jungle on the VP side. VP doing much the same on the other end, if you look at where Listic is at. Both teams really just playing to not make an obvious mistake, at least until the next turn.
Well, again, if we're looking at the numbers game here, we've got a good amount of players for VP, but you can see, given that Pocket's on the high ground, laying down the barrage, they're a little bit wary of this engage. This gets in there, can get out easily. And again, posturing from both sides, and neither wants to sort of full commit here. And I mean, now the fact that we're like 139 to 139k makes sense. Mirage in trouble.
Yeah, Mirage is getting caught. Listic there on the spot. Deals with the Mirage, and now what comes of this? It's not a timing to get mid boss, but is that timing to maybe push a Walker right now if you're VP? Seismic Slam coming on down, looking for Zergy. Zergy's been such a big threat, taken on down, and the Clone Storm Cloud on top. And yeah, really good counter pick from One Win. In fact, I'd say of the two, you like that trade a little bit more from the One Win end.
Again, like, you know, really trying to posture around this urn. Both teams very wary of how the engagement starts. That's the most important part of the engagement. Going in though, for One Win, we've got Zenon just charging in. There's the E-shift. Owl makes its way through as well to try to create more
It disrupted the urn. Right now, it's all about urn control. That's what the Owl was focused on. However, they're able to pick up the urn again, and VP gets away. So One Win ideally wanted urn control. They're not able to get it. And you just see the full rotations that's going on here. It could just be a full 6v6 next turn. Of course, buff on the left side still in contest. Not quite sure who got that between the pocket and the Mo. Both were up over there, but VP right now looking for the quick turn, and you got Viscous taking the teleport. The full team rotation over and in. The Storm Cloud is ready. Might be Storm v Storm as Flammable's gonna look to clone right away. Instead, they just go for the direct turn in. The cube on top, the cube secures the urn, and the rescue beam out! The quick little razzle dazzle coming in from VP. You love to see it. And now they go for the team fight engage right after. Baby catching One Win off guard. Flammable super low. Listic got a great in. Yamato trying to turn around. Shadow transformation looking for the opportunity, but Listic just decimated the backline with Sharik. What a play from VP. The turn in into the engage. Damn, that is wild.
Yeah, and the fight's not done just yet. VP scored every last member standing, and One Win are really committed into this fight at the moment. It's going to be very hard for them to get out of this one in one piece. To the remaining players, it's going to do Empty Dreams is critically low, as is Overseas here. Overseas is going to be safe in the base, but can't say the same for Empty Dreams. And the Walker conversion here for VP, and suddenly they find themselves almost 20k ahead. Okay, Jake, what on earth do One Win do from this point of view?
I mean, now, like from a true strategic perspective, you know, One Win are in a rough spot. It's not unwinnable. I think the question now is how the mental is. I mean, this is two big back-to-back team fights. It's a nice pickoff from Overseas, though. Obikim maybe being a little bit too greedy, trying to get that Walker while the rest of the team takes mid-boss. I still think it's going to be a bit too late for One Win to make the contest. I think this is more or less a free rejuve for Virtus.pro and a real chance for them to take this game, force us to a decisive game 3. I think it would have been a letdown with the $2,000 prize pool to see this to not go game 3. So Virtus.pro going to be feeling pretty good about their position. And with the comeback they've made so far, I don't feel like they're going to give this one up.
Yeah,
man,
makes sense.
Dan, I'm still trying to recover from that last team fight. You know, people throw around the idea of, you know, absolute cinema a lot, but I mean, that was one of the most well-executed team fight engages we've seen from any team, let alone like also VP.
Yeah,
just really well played.
You can see it like in all of how much time was spent in like positioning, like choosing the timing, and the sort of the posturing around the position for both teams. And it does really seem, I agree that VP are the best team in the business in engineering these team fights to their advantage and being able to take initiative at the right time. And that's one of those skills that's really, really helping them recover despite the fact that they were behind. They can kind of make up some of that soul diff because of that macro advantage that they have as a team. Another engage potentially.
One Win getting tested, you know, the $2,000 certainly on their minds also, and we'll see just where this next fight goes. Right now, all focused on the right lane. VP with the edge. Zergy, of course, perhaps the most valuable person to pick off for One Win if they're able to handle it, but Zergy, Dan, keeping a good distance at the moment.
Yeah, just again, VP, they're being so careful. They kind of withdraw from the fight a little bit here, and that's you know, not necessarily them being like too passive, but they want to sort of also commit their opponents into a worse engage. If their opponents then have an opportunity to overextend, that's what's being offered by VP. VP though, realizing that their opponents are not biting, going to be pushing into them further, looking to go for the initiation there. Nice one off the combo kills. Greek opens it up there, takes down the opposing frontliner. Zenon out of it. 3 players now down for One Win. VP with the rejuve, absolutely cleaning house here. And oh my god, they could roll this into game.
At the very least, they're going to get first stage patron. I mean, the entire momentum has been done. And I wonder what Jake brought up, the idea of the mental damage to One Win. I mean, you lose 2 big fights like that. It just had to be absolutely spirit breaking. Yeah, you throw in an owl, but at this point it's just an owl of meek resistance rather than getting anything done. First stage patron about to fall, and VP. The question is, do you stick around?
Well, it's VP, and they definitely know how to not give up an edge, so we'll let them inform us as how they play it. But yeah, falling off is the expected move. A lot of ways to extend your lead on the map at the moment. That left side of the jungle completely open for business, and it will be ransacked by VP.
And away we go.
Everything going VP's way, getting the urn, getting the last team fight, building advantage, and first stage patron down. One win, who at one point was ahead in this game, who had everything going for them after just a devastatingly dominant middle lane, no less. I mean, you think back, Dan, the middle lane was just One Win putting a masterclass with the pocket in middle. And it's just all gone to the wayside. VP, the best in the business at finding ways back from games, even when things have been going wrong. And I'm not sure you can necessarily say the same of One Win, especially down this deep, this late into the game. But when you got race spirits, go for Obakim, who has been punching bag all game long, one way or another. Seismic slam, when you want to be sure, go for the mole, drop the owl on top of it. Oh man, that was like 3 ults to kill Obakim?
Well, he's dead, at least, and One Win can rest easy knowing that much. Actually, Overseas on an 8 kill streak, I saw. So he's not managed to die in a lot of these difficult engagements recently. Obviously, much more of a backline focus in terms of positioning in the team fights, but still, good work from Overseas there. Okay, so 27k souls behind. At this point in the game, it's not insane, but the problem is that VP tends to have better team fighting when it comes to these like everyone. When everyone's showing up, they just do a better job. And that's the problem, I think, here for One Win.
Well, I think that's part of the problem, but also at this point, I also just think in terms of overall comp, when you have a Geist that's gotten this fed, like the overall strength of the comps between both teams definitely is way more on VP's side, even if the economy was even at this point. It would be different if maybe the Yamato, Zanya was super far ahead or something like that. But I just think dealing with the Geist and the Seven and the Calco at this point, it's really difficult. I mean, VP's getting advantages in these team fights just by virtue also of the comp that they're playing at this point.
Well, what's interesting here is that VP are interested in his pickup, and look at the response from One Win. They've said they've got 5 players, a 6th on the way.
Oh no, not again. The mole is in danger, Dan.
It's Obi Kim, of course. Little E shift.
Mole abuse is all I'm seeing right now. Is Obi Kim able to get away? I think Obi Kim is able to get away. They said the owl just to be sure, but in this case, it's not Mo going down another time, and said they use a lot of resources on Mo, and VP says, actually, you did all that, Obakim's still alive, we go, we fight, we get the combo in, we take down ABL, and the full engage now in for VP could be the game winner here. On top of it, Dan, the ultimate punching bag is Mo, and sometimes it works in favor of the team with the Mo. This is Zanya running for life right now, Zergy way on top of it, dropping the stun. Zanya doing a decent job fighting back, gets a little bit of health towards the end, but 20 HP and down. That is a team wipe coming in from VP, and this could be the end.
Yeah, VP. It looks like they've done it. Now it's the victory lap, and One Win get unceremonially finished off. Wow, what a comeback from VP. I mean, this is why I think Jake said it so well previously. It's this is kind of why they win all the time. It's because even when they're losing, they're just actually goat. And that's exactly what we saw here. VP tying the series up here. DFN 20 presented by Intel, and they're gonna even us up and once again look to threaten the title.
And the fact that VP was able to do this after what was objectively a terrible start. I mean, One Win put them into the blender in middle lane. It went really bad, where VP got an early kill middle lane, and then everything went against them. It was just everyone was eating at the Obakim buffet. There were just anything that could have went wrong for a while did go wrong for VP. And Jake, we talked about before this happened, we get to talk about it again. VP's a team that even when everything's looking bad, they find ways to be competitive or outright win, and clearly they did that this time.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to that one team fight where Sharik just like gets a massive combo, all of his spells hitting on like 3 or 4 1-win players. And that team fight, I think, is the kind of the backbreaking one where 1-win have an advantage. They should be coming to defend that urn with confidence. But VP, because they got the urn away on the other side, they got to the rotation a little bit quicker. They take the fight on their terms. And there's very few teams in Deadlock right now who can be down 20k souls and can think, you know what, we have the positional edge. We have the confidence that we're going to take this fight to you. And that's VP right now. Like, this is the reason this has been a championship squad, is because they can be in that spot and still have faith in themselves, still believe that this game is winnable. I mean, think about in your pubs, like how many games would people just be like tilted out of control the way this mid lane went?
I mean, it'd be over. It would have been over at the beginning, Dan. Also, I just got to point out here, I'm just, get a sneak peek at the end screen before it's even up on production end, but every death, maybe going for a greater cause. Obikim died 13 times that game, like by far the most of any team. And yet, if you're using a bunch of resources on Mo, you're not using it on the rest of the team. So, I mean, in a way, it really did work out, Dan.
Yeah, certainly did. But I think one thing that 1-win will be thinking about, though, is, okay, how is it that we couldn't extend the lead when they got decisively ahead, given the nature of the heroes that they had that lead with as well? And I think that a lot of it is the credit to VP, because VP are not giving edges, or let's say using mistakes to punish. So it might be a VP problem and maybe less of a 1-win problem that 1-win have to try to solve, because it's insane. Look at the value that they were getting, but then look at now what we see here on the scoreboard.
One thing I see from VP is I think when it comes to like the late game team fighting where all 12 players are in the fight, that's where VP are just decisively the best in the world. For me, 1-win on the lanes look like a better team. Like, we've seen it now twice that, like, yeah, they're getting a little bit more out of the lanes. Like, even in this game that they end up losing, they're incredibly strong individually on the small numbers engagements. They're dominant. But VP just have these amazing moments where they're so good at backing up in team fights, at regrouping, and then when they come with aggression, they move forward together. And like, that's a subtle part of MOBAs. When you watch like a top-down MOBA like Dota or something, you really see the top teams, they all back and move forward in like the same tempo and the same rhythm. But replicating that in Deadlock, I think, is so much more difficult due to the limited perspective nature of the game as a shooter. And the fact that VP are this clean with it, this hard to team fight in the late game, even with advantage, really bodes well for their chances going into game 3.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that was the clear difference in this series when it got to those late game team fights. We were talking about it a lot, and I love the subtleties where they kind of like pull back a little bit, pause to really bait the other team to like overcommit. And if that team makes a mistake, they get a sick team fight. But even if there were spots where VP had to like, okay, well, we can just take the initiative anyway, they would still find those timings also. So they're not one-dimensional. They're able to kind of find opportunities in the push and the pull. So I think that's a great way to talk about VP.
Well, look, this is Deadlock Fight Night, number 20, presented by Intel. And we had to go the distance here in EU. $2,000 on the line, thanks to an anonymous donation. We are going to the ultimate map here in EU, 1-to-1. The money match will conclude right after this break. It is Deadlock Fight Night number 20, presented by Intel, the money match. Both teams have struck blood, 1-to-1. I'm ZP here with DDK and Dan. We got ourselves a match, 1-win going toe-to-toe with VP, and VP showing incredible resilience at the same time, bring us to a final map to close it all out.
Yeah, did we just get a 25 gifted? So I know you don't usually shout those out, but that's pretty epic. Thank you for that. But yeah, CP, this is pretty epic. All the money's flying around at the moment as we get into the conclusion of this EU portion of the broadcast for this historic moment at DFN 20. Now, 1-win, we saw them get ahead. There's no reason to think, ZP, that they can't once again get ahead in the early laning phase. We heard Jake, describe it that they looks like the better team in those kind of brawly fights, in the early laning fights. They look like the better team, so they will have another opportunity to get an edge. But can they close it out against VP? Well, that's the hardest thing that you can do in Deadlock, is close out against VP. So.
Well, of course, we're going to be finding out the answer to that question, not with just me and you, but also with our third. It's going to be Jason rejoining the broadcast. And also, Jason, before we get to your thoughts, big shout outs to Philly 995 for the 25 gifted. That's enough where, I feel like it's worth a nice shout on the broadcast.
I do also have to clarify something to some people here in chat. The shaved head at 1,000 subs, that was for one night. That was if we hit 1,000 subs on that day. I would have shaved my head. You have to go through my wife if you want me to do it any time now. Like that, I don't think she's gonna let that happen. I still think keeping her with me, and I kind of want to stay married to her. So
I think I'll save it. We're already far away. We've got another like 900 to go or something. 869 to go.
Some Oilers gonna come in here and just drop like 500 subs, and then I'm gonna be like, I'm pooping myself here on air. But you know who's also pooping themselves? One win, because they look so dominant at the start of that match. ABL on the pocket. Well, there goes our 100% pocket win rate that we were talking about. Just decimated the lane, and yet VP holding on strong, as you heard Jake say, like one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world. They might be down, but they're not out, and they come back and bring it to a third.
Yeah, and I mean, look, overall, this has been what we've come to expect from these teams. Also, VP in particular, and just kind of, having the will of champions, so to speak, where even when you do beat them, Dan, it's never an easy task. I can think of maybe only one match ever where, VP just kind of rolled over, and that was back in their 7 days when 7 wasn't being played super well. It was like overly farm-based. But, other than that, VP, win or lose, one of the toughest teams to play against, period.
Oh yeah, I mean, they do a few things really well that make it the case where, like, as Jake put eloquently, in the big team fights, you can't really best them, so that's a problem. So you kind of have to win elsewhere in the game. And we saw, if you make a mistake against VP, they'll punish you. You'll get the max punish from them every time. So you can't also afford to really make a mistake. And if you make just one, it can compound. And that's kind of what we saw from one win. 1 or 2 bad fights, it starts to compound. And because VP are so good at controlled bleed, as I've been putting it, at losing the most, like the minimal when they're behind, suddenly they're just back in the game after punishing 1 or 2 mistakes. So that's what you have to deal with. It's so challenging.
Philly, chill. All right,
You got my
chill.
hopes
That's
you're
another
happy.
25 from Philly. Big shout out to him. Of course, all the
Holy.
money goes back into the show. It does not go in our pockets, or so I'm told. ZP. It does not go in
No,
our
that's
pockets.
true. It goes to the
Okay.
show.
wanna check.
It's one way of getting stuff done. Where it's like we need to get, we need a graphic commission or everything else. That's usually a lot where the Twitch money goes. It's just like stuff needs to happen. Well, we'll get it done. Where we've thankfully been supported by some cool modders. That's how we get Bow and Pro boxing gloves, graphics, that sort of stuff. But
We have a
gentlemen,
no
the fans are not
development
changing.
policy here.
ZP's like, I need another 50-90, so keep subbing here. I think about actually like the biggest comebacks we've had in DFN, and one match stands out. I think it was a Melee Creeps Llama Lords match back in like week 8 or 9 or something like that, where there was like a 50k soul difference, and I believe Llama Lords came back from that because of some failed. Actually, I think Melee Creeps came back from that because of some failed mid bosses that we had happen like multiple times. So it's not very often we see comebacks, and I think that's one thing that I really respect about VP here is when you get behind, you don't really get those opportunities to like learn from coming back. And I feel like the fact that they took it so serious and stayed focused, realizing that we have to find some way to do so, is really going to help them like in the long term when it comes to Deadlock, when you do have to play from behind against some of these teams.
Hello, darlings.
Well, take a look here. Calico coming out first. So it's kind of interesting where one win decided we still value the Mirage, no matter what, on a first pick with everything else being equivalent. But if you're VP here, Dan, you don't really change anything, I don't feel like. You can go Calico Paradox in this moment. Why wouldn't you repeat the draft that worked well for you last game? And you just kind of chalk up the middle game to execution differences, from my point of view, given the fact that you still won.
Yeah, I mean, they could definitely look at that and be like, okay, we got kind of blasted in the mid lane. And yeah, it's very unlikely that we'll get that badly blasted again. And even though that happened, we still won. So yeah, I totally follow the logic there that you presented. And you can see it from the initial ban. VP's still getting the bebop out of the picture. So they are indeed doing the same kind of approach here, getting the paradox off after the holiday ban. So it's the same cadence here. We get the pocket. So this is an identical draft so far from both teams. So where will the first deviation be? You'd expect it to be from one win, if anything.
Yeah, I mean, the deviation from one win would be expected there. Jason a little bit distracted as Philly just continues splashing the Twitch chat repeatedly. Where thank you so much, Philly995. I think we're tracking down a piano song name now. But look, one win coming in with the pocket and the early Kelvin. So this is a shift that Dan was just mentioning, is the idea of like, does one win change anything? And Jason, the Kelvin's been getting banned on the middle bans every single time by VP. That won't be the case this time, and it has changed the dynamic of the game a bit here.
It's so funny because I'm so happy this happened before I was going to say what I wanted to say. It was like, is Virtus.pro realistically going to ban Kelvin again? Why not just ban Pocket and just take that away? Like, are we realistically going to see Kelvin anymore at a 1 win? But I guess we're going to see our answer, and Virtus.pro might have been extremely punished in this situation, but that does leave open a couple of other potential picks to maybe come through. Virtus.pro again stealing up the 7, which of course Zergy, a insanely good 7. But I feel like Kelvin fits perfectly into the way 1 win want to play. You go into the jungle, you look for those picks, and by doing so, you use the frozen shelter, you lock them in, you get that guaranteed kill, and then you transition off the back of that. So it kind of really works with how they want to play. And VP change things up even further. Instead of taking away the Kelvin because it's been picked, they take away the Yamato. So Zanya going to be out of luck.
One extra detail about the Kelvin that's interesting is that one of the strengths of VP is those late game team fights, and the frozen shelter is a way to kind of actually like change the dynamics on the fly of those late team fights, and that could actually help to mitigate some of that advantage that VP have in those big team fights. But with 1 win, they've been going heavily into playmakers. Are they going to give up the Sinclair now because they've got the Kelvin and then lose what the Hex brings and then just forego any disruption or disable? That's what I'm wondering now.
What I wonder is, do they go Abrams here or Mo? Given that they have to get something extra for the front line, and they won't be able to go to the Geist again with the Geist being banned. And the front line is going to be more contested with Yamato not being here. So, yeah, I mean, Great Talon's still available, but do you go Great Talon over the available frontline options? I don't think you do, and they don't. They go for the Mo here. I think maybe the Abrams would have been better with what 1 win has been trying to focus on, because I think 1 win here, Jason, probably comes out the Abrams, and to your point, they might grab the Great Talon here too, given that it's late in the draft and he's still available.
Yeah, I think you mentioned Sinclair, and I think that's also like a very viable pick to counter frozen shelter with your own frozen shelter. But for 1 win, we've seen them play without a front line, so I'm not necessarily sure they're going to be locking in some sort of front line. And this is one of the few times we've seen Vindicta get through this deep into the draft for VP, and we see it taken away here for 1 win. So a big adaptation out of them in this match. I think this is maybe that second gear that I was wanting to see out of them that I mentioned earlier on today about like 1 win need to show some sort of other play style to be able to win games if they want to be one of the best teams in the world, and this might be it.
What if they
I
GT?
can take whatever they throw at me.
The Flyers will be interesting because you got Mo and Krill, Calico on the other ends. Not really good at shooting up.
Well, take a look here. They get the Abrams kind of as expected. VP now, this is where they would have gone with the Geist if the Geist was available. So I'm curious if they go more on the DPS end or more into the tank end here. Not a ton of great options available to us front lines. I mean, they could go Shiv. Shiv has been in the pool, but instead they decide Viscous first. Could be Viscous Shiv. I'm just thinking about what Listic might be playing here, because we'll see. We'll see if they go here. Yeah, I could. Yeah.
But I was thinking about Shiv as well, to be honest. I'm just trying to think how realistic could it be to win or to do well with a Shiv against this composition, because there's still a decent amount of lock, and then if you get locked in by a Calvo with the heal bane, like you're not going to be able to sustain inside of that.
Ooh. Okay. I mean, Listic can also play the Great Talon in this case too, right? It makes sense, but it is more of a shift, Dan, to go a little bit more DPS focused and a little bit less heavy on the front line relative to what VP has been playing.
I also like it because I think there's a world where 1 win could have picked that, and I think that would be a little bit interesting. But yeah, I'm curious for 1 win if they still go Sinclair, which was like a really good, so that was a good pick for this final slot. And again, having the Hex kind of gives you an answer to some of the lockdown potential that you get at least from Mo and Krill. So it's good to have that extra utility. Also bolsters your early lane, because of all of the kind of support-ish heroes, Sinclair's probably one of the best early laners out there.
I was just taking a look at the last time we saw Kelvin. It actually was last week with Flammable playing Kelvin in the first matchup against Paravision, that best of 5. And then we saw him play it twice in that series. And a decent track record, obviously, when it comes to Kelvin. And there's a reason it was being banned away. And when I say banned away, the 1 win Bombshell, I think it got banned like 4 out of 5 matches, if I'm not mistaken, by Virtus.pro. It was Bebop Kelvin every single time. And every time we've seen Virtus.pro play them since, it was generally the Bebop Kelvin ban on top of that. So for 1 win, the fact this is let through and you pick it up, I think this is time for you to win $2,000, man.
I'm looking at this here. My allocation my view of both of these teams, I actually don't enjoy the Kelvin that much from 1 win here. And for me, the reason is that I think if they had gotten the Yamato, they would be set. I just think that unless Abrams is able to be just really, really farmed, like they'll probably put Xenon on the Abrams again. But if the Abrams falls behind at all, I don't think this composition works really into endgame, because I think VP overall just has way more generalized hero power, Dan. Just from what we've seen on paper, I like the VP lineup more, and I feel like OneWin has more very specific conditions for victory, largely based on just crushing some of the early lanes with the pocket. This is kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, it does. I do agree. I think the early lanes do feel a little bit weaker. I'm also trying to think what the pairings might be for OneWin. Like, who do you pair with the Abrams? Like, for me, I was thinking
Abrams Kelvin, right?
Like
the Bass
either
brothers.
Vindicta or Kelvin. Yeah, it was kind of wild because you want to pair Vindicta with something that's going to support it really well. So yeah, I'm super curious to see how the lanes will turn out here. I am a bit more worried for OneWin. It does feel like what their strength is, winning the early lanes, feels like that's gone a bit weaker and it's gone a bit stronger for VP. So has their edge, OneWin's edge in the early game, gone?
Well, Jason, we're going to get a view of the lanes here, and I'm curious for your thoughts as we hop out into it. And yeah, they're going to do the Vindicta Abrams lane on one hand, and they're going to do Mirage into pocket in middle. And a quick little pause is, Obakim's probably saying some ground rules, saying like, please do not like go out of your way to hit Mo every single team fight. Yeah,
I was looking at Zergy. He was going over to the right-hand lane, and he's like, wait a minute, where am I going? And he had to run back to the left lane to get over there. So it's going to be 7 Paradox. We're going to have the Kelvin and the Sinclair together, which I find kind of interesting. A decent amount of poke, yeah, but kill potential, I'm not so sure.
I think it's because they had to they wanted the strongest middle lane they could get and to get the carries there, and then they had to pair the Vindicta with something like an Abrams, and then they're like, okay, well, what's left? I kind of feel like that's what happened. That's just me.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see this pan out. Again, I think middle lane, perhaps the most interesting setup here, and already see Obakim getting into it on the Mo and Krill, where anytime you can get scoring on an enemy hero early on, you're good for it, which is why you'll see Mo's just, hide in the Cosmic Veils and just, wait for opportunities. So a lot of pressure being applied in the middle. But Jason, before we let you go, anything look out to you here as Flammable actually getting the first blood?
Yeah, don't listen to me clearly, because I was saying I don't really see a lot of kill potential in this right-hand side lane. Also interesting to note the Empty Dream is actually going to be the one over on the pocket, and ABL is going to be the one playing Sinclair. So we're starting to see some depth in ABL's pool where he doesn't necessarily need to play like super strong carry like a pocket or Yamato or Calico.
The Vexing Bolt is chunky damage.
It's hard to deny the power of Sinclair's early laning ability. I think it's part of why Sinclair at one point was, very highly valued. Obviously, things have evolved, and whether it be NA or EU, not quite the first pick, first ban terror he once was. But OneWin certainly try to pick him up wherever possible. But looking between the lanes right now, OneWin a little bit ahead here thus far, off the early parts. And when you start seeing a 2K gap this early, Dan, part of it also is that there's probably a little bit of a deny advantage that's built up. I'm not sure which lane has been giving it up, but in terms of early pressure, this is kind of significant.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely very important. We've just seen how, I think especially, it's not just the early game is important, but I just think in the context also of this match where you're against VP who are so strong at all of the rest of the game. I mean, it's not like the early game's bad, but that's kind of like VP trade off some of the early game strength to be more resilient going into the mid game, have some of that scaling, and have like a comp that works really well in these team fights as well, which is more of a later game thing. So your big edge is, I think, what OneWin did previously, where they create a comp that's very heavily designed around massive playmaking, just domination in the early laning phase. And even if you have good scaling, your team fighting has to be good enough. And if it's not, VP will still win. That's kind of like the story of the last game.
I think a lot of the pressure has probably come from middle. Just look at everyone's economy right now, where not only did they get the early kill, but I think Mirage in general could just be such a terror when it comes to getting denies, having constant range pressure, keeping a Mo back. And then you have kind of 1-2 punch where you're getting, nickel and dimed down by the Mirage. And then you have the burst potential from the pocket that's over in lane. And you might be seeing a little bit of that right now, where just the damage from Xenon really consistent on the Obakim.
And that's the power of the Mirage. Really good at chunking down a Mo, especially big hitbox. Get the chin smart going. A lot of damage. Ooh, unable to cut off line of sight for long enough there. Takes a bit of a chunky damage himself overseas. I don't know that I've seen overseas at DFN play Vindicta. I don't know that. Wait, have OneWin actually run Vindicta before? I don't know. At DFN.
I think generally they do prefer more on the talent side. I feel like them picking Vindicta was more of a, they were worried VP would pick it, but I don't even know if VP was going to do that, given that Paradox was likely going to be what Mikhail S was playing, right? And the fact that Talon is more in Listic's hero pool than anything else. So it's kind of an interesting choice that they've gone. But Jason has the answer to your question there, Dan.
Yeah. Well, Jason, collecting the stats, giving the answers, and that's the Affliction, that Affliction pressure once again. And Empty Dreams, I have high hopes for Empty Dreams, because last week we saw Empty Dreams be really the predominant pocket player for OneWin, and he was absolutely crushing.
It's been really good so far. Also, just no care in the world. Xenon walking for it. Maybe should have cared a little bit. Return the Shadow coming on in, and okay, still able to rotate around. And yeah, I mean, I think the power of Affliction to just send people out of a lane to get free Guardian pressure in this early stage is quite powerful, particularly when, you know, the one linking thing we've seen is that ganks early on are quite rare. I mean, people stick to their lanes now in early game Deadlock for the most part.
Yeah, and I gotta just add a detail there too. Zenon on the Mirage, when he like went into the opponent's shop, didn't have like Tornado was off cooldown. It's just like hanging out there. It's just like no escape option. Just it's interesting. Little note. Now, just trying to check out the tower damage here. Oh, nice pick off again. Zenon is. I mean, you can see really why Mirage is the first pick candidate.
You know, between the last map and this map, I just feel like there's a hidden mechanic where, like, the more you sacrifice your Mo, the more the rest of your team gains power. It's what I'm riding on, because it was a rough start for Obakim in the last game, and now is a rough start again. Frozen Shelter, forced out, flammable, just low on HP, use it for a bit of a heal. Instead, a little bit of an owl cancel coming on in. Listic was like, do I throw the owl out? And decides no. Goes off to the side now, takes a little bit of cover, could throw it out now, looking for the Sinclair perhaps. Flammable is still shot down, and here we go. Owl cam over and in. Listic, is he gonna connect? He does. ABL down.
Cleaning out some of these tower creeps. So actually OneWin with a slight advantage on the souls, slight edge there to K. And overall, well, I think similar to last game, OneWin are doing a better job on actual tower damage as well. And okay, big fight here in the mid as well. There goes the dive. Obakim is going to get taken out, of course, by Empty Dreams. So you can slip away, you can pocket. And that mid tower is in trouble. In fact, the Calico might be in trouble too. Empty Dreams coming in again, but it's the ult there to block the damage. Maybe get the follow-up, the satcheling out. Ooh. And finishing blow, but in comes Zenon from the back, and that's going to be the kill and potentially more tower damage there for Zenon. He's just been farming this one up.
Yeah, I mean, Zenon's going to get mid-tower, but I do enjoy the parry attempt for the pocket there. That was actually smart and could have worked. Meanwhile, though, Zergy, Stormcloud, going to have to cancel under pressure here from the Abrams, and overseas the assassinate from behind. OneWin again. Showing to be kind of masters of the early laning phase here, Dan, where they're about to get middle tower. They're getting plenty of pressure here on to the left. Yeah, I mean, Mikhail S is back and should be forcing this back a little bit, but you know, the overall trends of the game are significant, and the lead even more so thus far.
Can we see if it's like a crow build or like an assassinate? Because it's hard to see. We can't see if he's leveling up. Which at the moment, 2-2.
Yeah, both are ranked to level 2.
Oh, nice. Jason in with the goods.
Also, how did chat just get to the point where you saw the owl get brought out and then not get brought out, and the immediate instinct of Twitch has say the edging owl? Come on, guys. Come on. Is all I gotta say there. But look between both teams. Abrams now gonna get forced back. I was just trying to do a little bit of peaceful gambling there, Dan, and VP not really approving.
Yeah, this is actually dangerous to VP right now. We have a collection of players here for OneWin. You can see overseas over the top again with the assassinates, and that tower pressure is undeniable here for Zergy on the 7. Just has to watch them destroy the Guardian. He can't do anything.
Might also be incentivized to run now in Vindicta assassinate range, but just trying to hit the right balance between keeping lane pressure and not dying. And VP just continuing to add on to their lead here so far. Mo, though, combo here in the tower. Pocket would be the great escape. Once more, 7 HP and down. And that is a gift, Dan! A gift that's going to be immediately picked up by Sharik.
Damn, this is a problem here because someone's like flying over the top here. The Vindicta trying to get those angles. Overseas does so much damage. Zanya trying to get to the Paradox. Paradox trying to make his way out of there. It's not going to happen though. Surrounded again, and it's once more just another strong early game. Like a really strong early game here. From
also, overseas has become a problem. Like you're talking about the ideas like, oh, one win just doesn't really play a lot of Vindicta as of late. Well, guess what? They're playing Vindicta. Overseas is on it. And the pressure has been immense here so far. Nearly a 10K lead heading into 10 minutes. Ballistic going for the owl. Doesn't delay this time. Over, in. Doesn't finish off the kill just yet. Is the final blow going to come in? It does. Drops a bag right after. Ballistic going for it. Rabbit now says, I want the bag, but might be giving up the bag in turn. Green kills Dan, and that's a great example of why.
Yeah, indeed. Well, look at Zenon. I feel like every time we watch Zenon, he's just chilling. Absolutely chilling in this mid lane, farming up, getting everything that he wants. That's a scary prospect. But with that said, Zenon is 9k souls, as is ABL on the Sinclair. Wait, ABL's playing Sinclair, I just realized. As is overseas on the Vindicta. So, solid start. Sharik, though, 10k on the Calico. So, the Calico shenanigans certainly going to be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, you look at overall income allocation, it's not terribly bad for VP just because of where the Talon and Calico are and the fact that, I think Zergy is closer to 8K rather than 7K. But, the overall aggregate's still a little bit tough as we run into this earned fight. We'll see how the contest comes out here. A lot could be set by this earned fight. Either one win is going to have a very clear advantage or VP is going to even the game. Those are the two paths we're at right now, Dan.
Oh. Out of the docking bay, over the ocean, and into the mountain. 3 players.
Before it gets me killed.
The disruption.
One win's used a lot of their ult power here, and VP, aside from Obakim, is pretty healthy. Obakim drops the combo, hot, low HP. Lamball is able to catch Mikhail S while that was going on. Obakim down in turn, 2 down for VP here. One win not really damaged in turn. And now, overall, one win getting the advantage in the fight. And VP forced back. So, once again, we're really testing the VP resilience game after game right now, Dan.
Yeah, and it's really cool to see actually some of the benefits that Kelvin is having. Gets the Divine Barrier really early. We see that helpful to keep Zanya alive and just giving a bit more love, I think, to the people engaging on the front line. Keep them up longer. And the Kelvin didn't really seem to weaken the early game as maybe we were thinking it. There could be a chance that it would. Okay, Zenon's just going in right now for the pressure, trying to make life hellish here for ABL. For Sharik, sorry.
Return the Shadow used. Mo is here. It's a 6K Mo. It's more bark than bites, but combo when it's up can be a bit of a threat. Middle lane though, continuing to get more reinforcement. Zergy is in, 4 men in, 4 VP. One win rotating the same in turn. 4 versus 4 in mid lane. Zergy, Stormcloud, good to go. Sharik able to take down Xenon early. Xenon staying a little bit too long. And VP still has options to go here. The assassinate though, just ends Sharik with the aid of Xenon. He's right back in the fight.
Yeah, this is looking really scary. I think, as you said, on overseas. Overseas is.
I say right back in the fight. It was. What's it called? It wasn't a Traveler back in. It was just like he still had the Xenon dot on him, the Jin's mark. So yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That didn't make sense. It didn't make sense for him, but now it makes sense now.
Well, I'm glad that it makes sense now. That's good. We're gonna have to try to make sense of this though from VP's perspective, because they are actually 14k souls down now, and we've talked them up so much about these team fights and everything else, but they are not stopping the bleeding like they typically are able to at this stage of the game. Whoa, Google gets stopped, dead. I thought you couldn't stop a Google actually.
Yeah, you can beat it, and ooh, just the fade away onto Empty Dreams from D-Mov. Important for VP to stay in it.
The Google in motion stays in motion. We've got the in addition to the Newtonian physics, we've got a 3v2 here in favor of one win, and look at this, we've got a frozen shelter coming in handy. Poor Obakim Say it ain't so.
I mean, Obakim's just used to it at this point. Obakim has by far the most familiarity with the spawn point in this game. Swap on the Zanya. Limits what the Seismic Slam could do. Getting hit in turn. Still at 13k, not the easiest kill. Mikhail looking pretty poor. Zergy drops the Storm Cloud, just immediately gets punished in turn. So, you know, the Storm Cloud's off on cooldown. You lose Zergy, and, you know, one win. I mean, this is a sizable advantage, and, you know, maybe a good time to bring in Jason. You know, Jason, what are we looking at right now?
I'm looking at Obi Kim sitting in line trying to buy food with food stamps, man. 7k. Him and Mikhail S have been just in such a tough spot this entire match. But I think the saving grace is I look at the side of one win, and with ABL not on a carry, you're really just dependent on, like, I feel like Empty Dreams and maybe Xenon to be the carry for your team. But then Virtus.pro, you have Zergy, you have Listic, you have Sharik, you have some really good late game carries for your team. So Virtus.pro, if you can just hold on, if you can just survive, stop the rot somehow, just not fall even further behind, then I feel like Virtus.pro can still easily come back into this.
I mean, this still could be Shriek getting hunted down here. It's on a knife's edge. You got Overseas in over the top, doesn't get faked out, kills Shriek, gets the bag back. And I mean, Overseas to me has been the story in this game so far. Just incredible Vindicta play, even if it's not reflected being the most farmed on the team. Frozen Shelter though, down on the urn, one win, not looking to give it up. Looking for Listic. Listic goes for the parry. Over to the side. Everyone rotating over and in on to the right. Frozen Shelter has already been used. Urn, though, going to be picked up here by the Kelvin as Empty Dreams just dives the backline, gets rid of Obakim once more. And at this point, one win is just able to kind of exert their will on the game, and with 2 early picks, Dan, they just may bring this Urn straight into VP territory.
Yeah, and why not? I mean, when you're Vindicta's able to just say, yeah, 1v1 versus the Calico, yeah, I'll go for that. That's definitely a statement. That's a problem if you're ever finding yourself at that point. And here they go. One win all the way into the deposit zone. And VP will have some players here. Well, they have enough. They got 3 against 5. I don't think this is worth it for VP to contest. But look at this. One win. They don't know how many players are on the other end. They actually fall off.
Honestly, good split-second decision making by Flamble. I think if Flamble tried to force the Urn, it would not have gone well. And I think one win realizes, wait, we're 15k ahead. We don't need this Urn anywhere near as much as VP needs it. So I think just the moment there, whoever made the shot call on one win to be like, no, really excellent shot call.
VP are sticking around though towards that left side of the map. They are rotating GT across as well. So 4 players to block the potential route to the Urn. And additionally, Empty Dreams is now coming over for one win to potentially reinforce the effort. And at the same time, you got that map pressure on the right side. You got that Mirage just doing Mirage things, and then just making sure that they keep pressure on the other side of the map. Can TP across at any moment. Actually, his TP is down. Never mind.
And something Jason brings up that we should have brought up earlier is still no flex slot for VP at the moment. So, I think part of it is just when your heroes are more on playmaking, like your Paradox has been having a tough time, and your Mo, is doing combos, but has been the sacrifice. It's tough, but in this case, the combo connects. The bag is secured, and Nobakim may be down. You still take that trade at this point if you're VP. Have to trade the 10k Mo for the 15k Abrams as Listic comes in over the top, snipes down the pocket, gets the bag, and now a little bit of flyer versus flyer action here in the rooftops. Power shot in, here comes the Owl. Looking for Vindicta. Overseas looking real low. Getting healed up in turn by Flammable though, going, you will not die, but we'll see how good that promise is. Divine Barrier pop, 300 HP. Listic turns around, no! The counter shot, Overseas, not dying to that power shot. Assassinated turn, leaves with the bag. Getting paid, Dan.
You don't have to headshot in this game, but for some reason, Overseas is just going to choose to line that one up. Oh man, and this is the support. Like Jason was talking previously about how teams are opting not to have those supports. You get Kelvin in the game, you get the Divine Barrier, you get the Healing Nova, you get the regular heal. All of that went onto the Vindicta to keep Overseas alive. And obviously that would not have happened in the previous match with no Kelvin. So we're seeing the value of the Kelvin there. Oh, apparently there's extra damage with the headshot.
There is. It's been in for a bit. It's like 25% or thereabouts. Just because at some points I was like, you know what, you should get a little bit of extra damage for plunking the head there, and Overseas right now, not missing. But
not bad.
109k to 90k, nearly a 20k lead for one win. And again, you look at the economy allocation, there's ways back to it, but oh boy, one win. They don't miss an opportunity to force mid-boss when they think they're ahead. How is this one going to pan out? VP definitely looking very keen to contest. And in fact, it's one win. They pull off. They decide, we're going to pull off. We're going to look for picks here in the interim. Not the most ideal spot for a vindictive fight, but okay, they finish off mid-boss. Rejuvenator coming on down. Affliction dropped pretty early here by Empty Dreams on the other side. Empty Dreams under pressure. Frozen Shelter going to be dropped here, stopping the Rejuvenator for a moment. Both teams all in. We have the Storm Cloud, the duplicate Storm Cloud from ABL, and the real Storm Cloud from Zergy, but the duplicated Storm Cloud absolutely cleaves and dominates. VP crushed by the Sinclair copy. Massive, Dan.
Dude, plagiarism is disgusting, okay? I will not be having any of that. We should that deserves a ban. Let's get him out of the program. Oh my goodness. You're not supposed to succeed in life by plagiarizing others, DP.
Well, sometimes real life works in ways that people don't want to publicize when it comes to that, but the plagiarism effective for ABL. Stormcloud just a bit stormier than what Zergy did in turn. Also, he got Stormcloud up earlier on top of it, so oh boy, one win in a massive advantage now. They can sense the defense now, Dan, and the sweet, sweet prize of the $2,000 at stake.
Wow. 40K ahead. 40K ahead. Now, we've seen the lead go away before, but this game has felt different. I think we've called it out in the various inflection points where VP would normally be able to limit how many souls they are behind, despite kind of losing map control or some of the early Guardians. They were not able to limit the losses this time around. One would have been able to keep the pressure up, and they're finding way more success there. Maybe it's a good time. Well, hold on, actually. We're going to have another team fight, looks like, over this earn drop-off once again. I was about to bring Jason in, ZB, but probably bad timing.
Not the greatest time, as they are just looking for it. And when you have this big of a stat difference, why not Abrams just go in to take care of the cat problem here? Heavy pressure on the Shriek, nowhere to go. When your cat goes dying that easy, you know the game has been going your way. 2 already down for VP, 1 win. Just roll into the earn turn, and Xenon threads on through. They get 3 kills on top of it, and VP is on the brink of getting eliminated in the money match as 1 win looks unstoppable. And now, Dan, we can bring in Jason for a little bit of commentary on top.
Well, this has been an interesting development, I would say. I mean, I didn't have a lot of expectations for ABL when it came to Sinclair, just in terms of the heroes he likes to play of being able to carry it. But I mean, his Stormcloud in that mid-boss pit, killing 4 people. Now they've cracked open the base of Virtus.pro. They're showing no signs of stopping him. The lead, it's over 50K, man. Like this, you should not be able to lose a lead like this. I almost want to call it here. I don't want to say Virtus.pro's out, but 50, almost to 60K once they, retreat and take the jungle, that's an insurmountable amount.
It just, what they would need to do to get picks here, it's just ridiculous. Also, 1 win, kind of a reputation for trying to finish to the advantage they can. Another kill in the Overkim for good measure. 2 down for VP, 1 win. They can taste the bonus prize pool here and now. Sharik gonna fall, and 1 win, just pummeling the Patron here at the end. Storm Clouds come out for both teams, but ABL's has been a little bit stronger overall. The Patron lower and lower. Hang on though, VP with 2. Hold up. Are they actually gonna hold? Is this gonna be a thing? Dan, it's not over yet.
They're pushing them back. They think it's all over, but it's not over.
I thought they had a little bit more gas in the tank, but I mean, 1 win dying in the middle of a throne push is perhaps the most 1 win thing ever. It is very on brand.
well, I mean, if they can do it 2 more times in a row, then that would be the trifecta. That would be that would be pure magic. But it's still a huge advantage here for 1 win. So I doubt we'll see any shenanigans such as that. I'm sure they still remember the last time when that happened.
Honestly, I just thought they had enough damage to finish it off there. Like, I thought ABL would tank through on the Stormcloud. It didn't happen. But also, as Jason points out, VP on the board with the flex slot, still down about 40K. A little bit of teleporter action though. Low camp in the teleporter, a little bit of combo, but VP for now, they have to play hit and run here, Dan. They still cannot fight evenly, but the Patron will heal up, and it's not over yet.
This is really interesting because this extends the game. So 57K Oh my goodness, 37k soul difference. So it's actually not insane, the difference. And considering, if we think about VP as a team at this stage of the game, I feel like if one winner, like, they're effectively like 15k souls less ahead against VP's capacity in the team fight. Because VP are so good at the team fights and the setups there. So I don't think the lead is actually quite as bad as it looks. It's still bad, don't get me wrong, but I'm just trying to say the VP with a good fight or two can mount a comeback. We saw that in the last games. So
they're looking for the Sinclair. Sinclair early pick would be amazing. The Rabbit Hex, though, out in response, I think, may have just saved ABL's life. ABL, though, enemy number one just because of the clone Stormcloud. Sharik in the frozen shelter. Dashing up out of the danger zone. 2 HP. Ballistic, just getting a little bit of taste of the affliction. Not really enjoying life. Trying to escape and knows Anya on the chase down. Doesn't let me get away. 2 down. I got news for you, Dan. One one's going to go directly back to the patron here. I don't think they're going to wait.
No, but Stormcloud is online, so if there's a world where Zergy can set that up effectively, that'd be great. But if he loses too many teammates, that's not going to be enough. Need to keep some teammates online here to mount this defense. But yeah, they're looking to go for this patron at this point. And in fact, it's full HP.
This time around, Dan, I believe one win has done it. 5 down for VP, the patron. But okay, they don't actually have the backdoor protection is still active. They haven't pushed up the lane yet. Hold the phone. Surely, this is like one of those things. Like you're telling me there's a chance. Is the backdoor protection gone now? They kill. Empty Dreams dies inside the throne, but the patron it's too much damage. One win has done it. They take home the $2,000 bonus prize pool. They defeat Virtus.pro and they defend their spot as champions at Deadlock Fight Night Europe, presented by Intel. What a round for our 20th Deadlock Fight Night in EU for one win to hold serve. And that was a game there, Dan.
Well, maybe we now understand why the Kelvin ban was coming in every single time, because this was the most decisive victory for one win, and it's the game where they managed to get the Kelvin. And we did see a lot of the applications of that Kelvin. And actually, another thing that's interesting in terms of the developments of this is that the way that we saw the drafts going across the series kind of created this world where Mikhail wasn't getting onto the Vindicta. And so that also opened up overseas to be able to pick the Vindicta. So there's some interesting dynamics across the drafts for us to end up in this place where one win have a decisive edge going into the game.
And of course, Jason, you were watching all that from the beginning, the twists and turns, but in the end, one win, they got the advantage, they seized it, and it was it. And I think back to that mid-boss battle where you steal the Storm Cloud and you be stormier than the opponents. ABL, to me, that was the series-winning play.
Yeah, I think it's not been a secret that I'm very critical and harsh on teams. Like, I wasn't afraid to say certain teams kind of suck. You know which ones I'm thinking about, a certain EU team. And I've been very harsh on one win, but you know what? I will give them the credit when it's due. Seen them switch things up, obviously able to pick up the Kelvin, but more importantly, seen ABL play over towards Sinclair, which obviously he made some great individual plays, but they kind of showed some depth to the roster of what they have. We normally look at Empty Dreams and ABL as the two players who carry one win to victory. But, as you mentioned, ZP, overseas definitely put in some serious work here. He as well showed some flexibility. In match 2 on his Great Talent, he put up the highest player damage in the lobby. Match 3, able to switch over to Vindicta. Yes, again, another flyer, but was able to put down so much work with his owls, becoming a terror for Virtus.pro. And then even Xenon, I think deserves a lot of credit. His Mirage play early on in match 3, he just punished Obi-Kim over and over and over and over again. That one win is really starting to prove to be easily one of the top contenders. I mean, they have kind of been the second highest contender in EU, but definitely able to stick it to Virtus.pro. If they can do this consistently and continue to adapt on their style and continue to deepen the pool across all their players, I think Virtus.pro are gonna have a hard time, getting that throne back and taking, 7 weeks in a row back to back in DFN.
Yeah, high praise indeed. I think I totally agree. I was ready to say that our VP is the best team, but one win in my favorite team in EU, just because VP fundamentally have been so consistent, so good. But one win, I've really enjoyed them because of how aggressive they are, how their players, how so many of their players have all these playmakers to go to, and the diversity is also of the hero pool. Like you said, I've seen ABL have great performances now on such a range of heroes I didn't expect. that's been really cool, because it started out where I was like getting to know ABL as like, oh, this guy's dangerous on Yamato, but if you ban Yamato, it's fine. But now you can actually play so many other heroes to a high level, and seeing Overseas' versatility as well. We saw it this game, 10-0, he didn't die once.
Also, speaking in deaths, I mean, look, even though it worked out in map 2 as sort of the the punching bag, you probably have to look at what happened in terms of the early game, especially with like Michaelis having a tough early game and Obakim in particular just being the target throughout the early to middle game. Like your Mo dying 14 times with like at least 2/3 of that being in the first 15 minutes of the game. It was tough. I mean, Mo is really good, but something happened lane-wise here where, look, there was a lot of pressure, especially with the Mirage being put up there. But, you're looking at VP, things to fix. I think you look at what happened with your Mo play here, and you also just kind of look at the early game in general, because even in the map that they won, the early game was not kind to them as far as the laning phase went, and they were always having to play from behind. I don't know how consistently you can be good in Deadlock if you have to continually make up for a bad early laning phase, right? So for me, for VP, yeah, there's a lot to praise, but man, Jason, do they have to go back to the drawing board for figuring out their early laning?
Yeah, but the thing is that excites me about Virtus.pro. Whenever we see them lose, they come back like the following week or whenever they're reinvited back and just look to smash their opponents. The thing is, Virtus.pro, if you look at all the EU teams, do they ever get tested anymore? And OneWin's kind of been the only team to really do so. And when OneWin beat them a few weeks back, then Virtus.pro went on to beat them in OneWin Bombshell and then just slaughtered them the next week of DFN. So for me, I'm excited to see Virtus.pro finally be pushed here a little bit more and show what depth they have as a team and what they're going to come up with next.
Well, also, this was a tough one given the play that we saw over the course of the series, but we got to do our player of the match presented by Intel. And Dan, it's going to be ABL. We could have made an argument for Overseas, could have made an argument across the board, but ABL, just remarkable consistency all day long. It was difficult to choose someone else here.
Yeah, and we see him again, as we do in these series, on 3 different heroes in each map. We get the Calico here, then we go into the Pocket, then we go on to the Sinclair, so quite the diverse choice there. But yeah, just the dominance here from ABL was so incredible, just playing the Calico in such an aggressive way. And the way that, he's able to use Ava to like farm boxes super efficiently at the same time to stay really active in the opponent's jungle to maintain the ganking pressure, but consistently be just getting ahead. And then obviously understanding how to push it to the limit on Calico was truly remarkable. In fact, I think ZP, you were the one that said, if you want to learn how to play Calico, this is this first map. That's the match ID you want to go to, because the Calico play was impeccable.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better example of how is Calico good right now in Deadlock, in this current version of the game. Well, you look at map 1, look at what ABL did. That's all the incentive you need. And, Jason, I think you're the one that really talked about this, but ABL is also very versatile over the course of this series, where we saw even more of the ABL's hero pool than we thought possible.
Yeah, I didn't think Sinclair would be picked by him, if I'm perfectly honest. And I did have questions at the beginning of like, can he carry, so to say, on a Sinclair?
Right,
we see in this fight alone, a Stormcloud stealing away and gets 4 kills off the back of that. Like, he definitely had the potential to do so. He was definitely a pain in the ass of VP when it came to laning phase, with him and Kelvin paired together, able to poke quite consistently. He's proven to have a lot of impact on anything he plays. I still want to see maybe a couple more things. Obviously, you've seen now we've seen Calico, we've seen Pocket, we've seen Yamato, and I think we've seen Sinclair only out of him. I'd have to go check my database for that one, and I'm kind of too lazy to do so right now. But I still want to see a little bit more potentially out of him, but he seems to be similar to like the Leffa of EU in my eyes. And then you have Empty Dreams be more like towards the Rocker or the DMB in the past, where you just farm up and then have the impact later on. And it seems like we kind of have these roles being set within teams of these playmakers and these late game farmers as well.
Well, we do have an interview here with OneWin. We got Xenon, who played well all day long. Xenon, first and foremost, congratulations on your victory, especially on our 20th week celebration with the bonus prize pool. First and foremost, I gotta say, OneWin, you guys looked really good all day today, especially in the early laning phase. What was the thought process behind how you guys assembled your comps with the eye to the early game?
Okay, guys. I mean, game didn't change that much since the 3-lane patch. So you want strong laners in general. So our draft was focused on getting 3 strong laners in first stage. And last 3 picks is just to make the synergy between the heroes.
Okay, makes sense. I want to talk about maybe game 2, because you guys had a really strong start, thinking about ABL when it came to Pocket. In your opinion, what kind of went wrong for you in match 2 to allow Virtus.pro to get back into it and take it to a map 3?
I mean, obviously the game was in our hands. We had a really good lead, but I think we didn't anticipate the viscous punch, which can delay the urn, which happened on the 4th urn, I think. So viscous punch didn't let us to deposit the urn. So we took a really bad fight. So it's just pure our mistake. Because even before the game, we knew that Virtus.pro like to use viscous as the urn denier to delay and let the team to come and fight. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you, man.
Makes sense. Yeah. What have you guys been focusing on to improve as a team? Because I think we've seen consistently you guys are really good at the early lane. It makes sense that you say that that's been a focus of yours. But in terms of, when I look at VP, they seem really strong at like all phases of the game, and it's really hard to catch a mistake from them. So what have you guys been focusing on to improve yourselves as a team to be able to get better than VP?
I think the main focus was to not just invade the enemy jungle, but also secure yours. Because whenever we were invading enemy jungle, they replied to us. They took our slot machines while we were taking theirs. So during last week, we were focusing on securing our Gamba. So yeah.
Well, you never want to give up the Gamba. But I have one final question for myself here. Is that as people saw in especially the last 2 games, there was a lot of focus on Obikim on the Mo and Krill. Was that actually an intentional choice of just trying to make the life for Mo as difficult as possible, or is Obikim just crimes of opportunity on your end? What was the logic behind that? Because it was tough for Obikim in maps 2 and 3.
Yeah, it clearly was hard for him because last time when he had a good game on Mo, it was by support of Mirage, who is like insanely strong laner, so he can turn on the Mo, because like if Mirage has front lane, he can win lane solo kinda. But this time, since they were banning Bebop, and we had first pick all 3 maps, so we had Mirage on our side, and none other heroes can secure the lane like that as Mirage. So it's not Obicum's fault, sort of. It's just because of hard matchups in lane.
Well, makes sense to me. We're going to wrap things up here, but Xenon, any final words you want to say to the fans or viewers watching here as you guys won the 20th Deadlock Fight Night with the bonus prize pool? The floor is yours for any final comments.
Thank you guys for creating these tournaments. Thanks to my team, coach, manager, org itself. Thanks to everyone who supports us or Deadlock. Enjoy the NA party, guys. See you.
All right. Well, that was Xenon and, Jason, Dan. It's kind of cool to get the insight into what was going on behind there. Also, just, we kind of talked about it a little bit, the importance of Mirage, where even when Mirage isn't making plays directly, the impact of Mirage in early laning or just, later on, and how it lets you just control temp on the map, hard to understate.
Oh, yeah. It's if I was like really wanting almost to ask a follow-up question, which is about like, because he was saying it, how powerful Mirage was and how much it was clear how much of edge it was for the team. So, I wanted to understand more about how he interpreted the Bebop ban, because that was so consistently locked in by VP.
Yeah, I think obviously another question to follow up maybe next week when they potentially win yet again for DFN number 21. But cool to see. I mean, obviously punishing Obikim time and time again when it came to the Mirage was very difficult to see, and Obikim trying to play from behind. In my opinion, I think Mo has the greatest success is when you start to win lane, or you take that first tower down and then you can roam to allow those combos to be used. Because late game, when you try to use a combo, I feel like more often than not, you're just going to die for trying to go for that unless you do somehow separate one player from the enemy team.
All right. Well, the EU portion of the show is done and over with, but we still got half the show left to go. We still got $2,000 left to give away. Deadlock Fight Night North America number 20 coming at you right after this short break.